right, we are ready to begin. Good, is it? Yeah, good afternoon. Welcome back. I would like to make sure everyone silences their cell phone. We're a little rusty. Today is our first day back, but we are going to make it work. My name is President Irene Bustamante Adams, and I call this work session of August 6, 2025 to order. The time is 4:02. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the territorial homeland of the New Wu, the Mawapa Band of Paiutes, and the Las Vegas Band of Paiutes. We'll start with opening item. If we could do the flag salute, Trustee Stevens. Thank you. I'm going to go to item 1.02. I do want to acknowledge, though, Dr. Alsbury is on the line, and he's going to present on 2.01 and 2.02. And then I believe we also have Trustee Zamora online. Trustee Zamora, are you online?
I'm here.
Okay, great. And I know that we had a battle with the printer, so we will I'm going to ask Trustee Johnson, when he makes the motion to adopt the agenda, that we also have a motion to adopt it with some flexibility to move things around. We will go ahead and take the board committee reports first before Dr. Alsbury. I don't want to keep him on long, but I know we don't have the material that we need for our discussion yet, and our board liaison asked for a little bit more time. So Trustee Johnson, is there anyone, before I open up and turn it over to him, that has not completed a public speaker card? Okay, seeing none. Trustee Johnson?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with flexibility to move items around with the following changes. Additional reference material will be provided for the following items. Amended item 2.01, Balanced Governance Comprehensive Board Evaluation Timeline and Procedures Overview, Policies and Handbook Next Steps, and amended item 2.02, Balanced Governance Comprehensive Board Governance Services Proposal. Additionally, revised reference material has been provided for amended item 2.02, Balanced Governance Comprehensive Board Governance Services Proposal.
Thank you. I have a first from Trustee Johnson. Trustee Biasotti?
I will second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. Vice President Zamora?
Aye.
That passes 7-0. We're going to go ahead and go on to committee reports. I'm going to ask Trustee Stevens to go first, both on bond oversight, and we'll do debt management commission. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan, I will also ask for your any additional comments on bond oversight or debt management as well. Trustee Stevens, we're going to go ahead and go to item 2.03. It's not an action item, but we do have updates from certain members. Trustee Stevens.
Thank you, President Bustamante. So the Bond Oversight Committee, just a couple of quick updates for the board. They held their elections, and we had the Bond Oversight Committee has a new chairperson. It's Jenna Blackman-Taylor. I met with her a few weeks after she was elected into that position. She made it very clear that her top two priorities right out the gate were going to be, one, to work with the committee to determine the best way to provide a report back to the board. That hasn't really been done in a super organized fashion in the past. And so we're talking about maybe creating a report template that includes priorities from the board, what we would like to see from bond oversight, and then they can use their minutes and kind of organize it and get that back to us in a timely fashion. So we're working through that. And then the second thing, they really would like to update and finalize their bylaws. The reason that they haven't yet is because they've been waiting on us to finalize our governance policies, as they want to make sure that there's consistency. Right now, they're not consistent. There's a few things that are not consistent with their current bylaws or their old bylaws and our most updated governance policies. So I would imagine that the other committees are probably going to need to do the same thing, that they'll need to another look at their bylaws to make sure that there's consistency with our new policies once we put those together and make them public and we're done. So that was pretty much it for bond oversight. The Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition met a few weeks ago, and they did a reorg. So they are no longer the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition. They are a COG, or a Council of Governments, and they elected to move CCSD off of that committee. So we no longer have a seat there, but they made it very clear that should they have a topic that was around education, they would bring us back in for comment, questions, et cetera. And then I don't have any updates on the Debt Commission.
Thank you so much. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan, would you like to add anything?
Just one minor comment, because I believe the district made the decision to step away because of the nature of the work that they would do in that committee and council going forward will be municipality-specific and centric. But I appreciate Trustee Stevens, we were both there in person and virtually, that we know that if there's anything educational facing, that we would always have that opportunity based on the agreement to have those conversations continue. But we were the ones that chose to kind of remove ourselves because it's not a purpose anymore. So I just wanted to follow up with that.
Thank you. Any questions from the trustees? Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and, Trustee Cavazos, is there anything from NIAA?
Sorry. Yes, there is, Madam President. Thank you for asking. NIAA held a special meeting just this past Monday, August 4th. We were hosted by the Clark High School Chargers. And what we had on the agenda there is something, it is pretty exciting. We've had a lot of inquiries about it. And what we did was by a unanimous vote, 12-0 by the Board of Control voting members, to sanction boys and girls lacrosse beginning in 2026-27 school year. And we're currently working on all the logistics involved with that, having to do with the scheduling, having to do with the equipment, the uniforms. There's just a lot that goes into it. So that's one of the items. And we also currently, and this is pretty exciting too, we have, well, exciting to those of us on the NIAA, exciting to everybody, we hope. I know Adam looks excited there. We have currently at this time, until the application deadline closes next Friday, we have over 15 applicants for the vacant Region 4, being CCSD, parent rep position. And the application window, as I said, closes next Friday, the 15th, and we're reaching out to the folks that have turned in an application to ask for letters of interest, and they do have certain qualifications that they need to meet for that. So that's about it, other than our next quarterly meeting will be on September 23rd, 24th. Our meetings are 2 days long, and that will be hosted by Cimarron Memorial High School.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Anything from you, Trustee Esparza-Straffigan, on the oversight panel for school facilities?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I do have some comments to make about that. So just to recap, please, if anyone is not aware, they can go to ccsd.net, Facility Master Plan. There is a section on there that can provide them information on the process that we've been doing, because we want to have everyone's input. Just to kind of recap, we've had community meetings and feedback forums. We've had advisory groups, internal and external, and I know that workshops have been conducted. And then just a heads up for our board that they will be presenting, CCSD personnel will present to us on August the 28th. So once that presentation is done, please be ready to ask questions. There is information on the website. I would ask you to do a little bit of homework. Look at the feedback from that, although they will share some of that. If we can come in ready to, ask our questions, but also be ready to also continue the cycle, because there will be future community forums that will be happening in the fall.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos, I didn't ask if anybody had questions for Trustee Cavazos previously. Seeing none, but do you have a question for, on the oversight panel?
No, I just wanted to backtrack a little bit, and I wanted to state that Trustee Henry chaired the first school naming committee, did a great job, and we had a great meeting, and we do have some items that are coming up on our next regular board meeting coming from that, so I didn't know if she wanted to add something to that.
Okay, I will call on you in a second. Okay. Let me go to, any questions for trustee Esparza-Stroffigan? Okay, seeing none, let's go to trustee Dominguez, Vegas PBS.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam President. So I do have some updates that that have been difficult with the funding cuts that have happened through in the federal process. But I want to remind the public and the board that even though we do have those funding cuts, and it is 12% of the budget, about roughly 3.8 million, we do have the reserves to carry for, I don't want to put a time limit, so for some time, we do have the reserves. We do have a healthy reserves in place, and I want to make sure that we publicize that Vegas PBS not only is for, that Vegas PBS also has the public safety, emergency communications for CCSD, and also for our area, and obviously for a case of natural disaster, or if there's a disaster here within our district, we do have that in place. And I also want to encourage, if any of you haven't visited the special needs library within PBS, that is like really essential. And if anyone knows of anyone that has a special needs child, please go visit the Vegas PBS library. It's available to everyone. Your student doesn't need to be in CCSD district to visit that library. So it is open to everyone. And again, we do have a good standing and healthy savings and reserves. And then with the hopes of having more partnerships and donations in the upcoming year to fill the void with federal funding, we're hopeful for the future. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Henry, I know that trustee Gavasso mentioned the first meeting that you chaired. Oh, yes, trustee Biasotti, I'm sorry.
I had a question. My question was for trustee Dominguez. Do we know what those cuts are going to look like for our students in school?
The funding cuts, they were potentially going to close down the workshops that we had with Vegas PBS. However, we were able to, or Vegas PBS was able to find the fundings to make sure that that was not missed out, and none of those were closed. So we were able to carry that through the summer. Again, we are able to carry the budget throughout some time without that reserves right now. It is only 12% of the budget. So currently, we're able to carry with that.
Thank you. No further questions.
See no other questions? Yes, trustee Cavazos.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Trustee Dominguez, and thank you for that report, and completely reiterate what she said about the special needs, classroom over there and the resources there. I just wanted to ask, kind of piggybacking on your, reassurance about the federal funding, and that it is 12% of the budget. What does the timeline look like as far as the reserves that we do have available?
I'm only going to put it out. I'm not sure if I can put out that we can. I'm afraid to tell the timeline because I want to refer to make sure I'm giving the accurate timeline. We do have more than a year. Able, yeah. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Good questions. We'll go ahead then and move to trustee Henry on the school naming committee. Anything you would like to add?
No, thank you so much. And Trustee Cavazos, thank you so much for your support during the meeting. That was my first time chairing. We met on July 8th. It was a room full of excited individuals, a very diverse group of individuals who were advocating for various name changes. So we did approve the 3 items that were on agenda. We renamed the Healing Center at St. Jude's It will now be Amy Ayub Academy of Hope. We also,
And let me just tell you, those are recommendations
well, the
from the.
recommendations,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yes.
Recommendations from the committee. The other recommendations was to rename Building Number 2 at Dr. Beth Howe Center to Yvette Wintermute Building. And the final one was to rename the School for Academic Excellence at Charles I. West Hall Preparatory Institute. We are recommending that the name be changed to the Dr. Charles I. West Preparatory Academy. So those are our updates from the committee. Did you have anything? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for that. And those recommendations will be coming to the full board for our approval in a near agenda. Oh, yes, trustee Biasotti.
Thank you. For trustee Henry, what is the criteria that you are implementing when choosing the name?
Thank you so much for asking. That's still something that I'm not well versed on. Trustee Cavazos, would you like to chime in?
Yes, there are there are different criterion for, elementary schools, middle schools, and the high schools. The elementary schools are usually named after individuals, and there are certain criterion for them. And we also not only have just schools, we also have parts of schools like the gym, the cafeteria, the weight room, et cetera. High schools are normally named after kind of like the geographical area that they're in, and we do have certain criteria for that. So what I do, because I can't remember every single thing that's on there, is I refer them to the ccsd.net website, and then you can find there, because it's fairly complex. There's an application, and then they have letters of recommendation, and then they give some biographical data or some background on the folks. And I think that Trustee Henry, she did an amazing job right now of doing the mouthful about the current name and what we're changing it to. So they have some very specific criteria. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Vice President Zamora, I'm going to ask you to chime in on the Nevada Association of School Boards. I know that there's a nomination process going on right now, but I do want to report my part is that upcoming September 6th, there's going to be a training session here in Las Vegas, conflict resolution and de-escalation. And then also the upcoming conference in Reno, which would be December 4th through the 6th. That's the annual conference. But Vice President Zamora, would you like to give an update on the nominations?
Sure. I did send Joe, thank you for helping sending an email out to our colleagues, to all the trustees, reminding them to send in any nominations. We categorize them, send the categories. We haven't seen any responses, and there is an email that just came out to expanding the deadline from August 15th to August 22nd. So trustees, if there's a name you have that you would like to submit, there's still enough time to let us know. Just make sure to include President Bustamante Adams, Joe, and myself in the response. And then I do want to also share that August 11th, there's a strategic planning virtual training that NASB is hosting. And there's a virtual training on August 28th, Navigating the Public Records Act as well. And you can reach out to our administrative assistant for those opportunities as well. And that was part of our newsletter that does get sent out. I hope all trustees are receiving the newsletter. If not, please let me know and I can make sure you get added onto the newsletter from NASB so you are up to date on everything.
Thank you, Vice President Zamora. I know that for Public Education Foundation, I've not had a meeting yet, and I do not have an update on the Council of Great City Schools. A lot of people took off for the month of July, but there is stuff coming up in August. So thank you for that. We are still waiting. So we are going to go ahead and take question. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan.
We don't have an opportunity. We're a little bit of on a hiatus. who is the contact person to submit to the newsletter?
You can submit directly for the National Association of School Boards. It would be Rick Harris, the executive director. Yeah.
And to clarify, it's not the national, it's the Nevada Association of
Yes,
School Boards.
Nevada. Thank you so much, Vice President. Let's do the 2.04, the change order process. Brandon, there you are. We're going to go ahead and Dr. Osbury, we're still waiting for our board liaison to have the packets so that we could see what the discussion is for 2.01. So I apologize for the delay.
No problem.
This item is 2.04, the change order process.
Did we close the previous item?
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin, please take it away.
Awesome. Well, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, Brandon McLaughlin, Chief Facilities. I'm joined also by Mr. Josh Chesnick, our Interim Director with Construction Management Department. He oversees our capital improvement project teams, and we're both here tonight to provide an overview of the district's construction change order process. As we proceed to the next slide here, change orders are a very routine and often necessary part of all construction projects during the construction phase of a project. Our focus here today is merely to demonstrate how diligently the team manages them and ensures fiscal responsibility and project efficiency in doing so. So looking at some historical data, the slide here highlights our new construction contracts. So since 1998, capital improvement program covering fiscal years from 1999 to 2015, you can see the percentage of change orders processed was approximately 6.38% of contract value. Now, for the more recent 2015 program, specifically from fiscal years 2016 to 2020, we drove that percentage down to 4.66%. And I'm pleased to report that our efforts continue to yield significant results. We've seen a reduction for our fiscal years 2021 to 2025, with change orders currently at 1.44% of total contract value for new construction. So before we go touting our own accolades and say a bunch of hoorahs, we do certainly want to acknowledge while these are fantastic reductions, there's what we believe two contributing factors that may be driving these figures to appear lower that are worth highlighting. So change orders, like I said, are customarily higher on traditional design bid build projects. However, the district over the last 4 years has been utilizing a lot more collaborative project delivery methods. So these are our construction manager at risk or design build project delivery methods. Now this allows for early contractor involvement in the design stages, which then ensures the projects are adequately scoped and that scope is covered in the contract documents, so thereby you don't have changes in the contract when you're out in the field. We also utilize allowances as a second part. This helps us with things that what we call our known unknowns. If there's something we can't put an articulated scope or a quantifiable scope to it, but we know it's a scope that will need to be included, we include what are called allowances. And oftentimes these lead to they're pseudo change orders within a project, but like I said, they're known. So it's just a matter of proving the math downstream. Now, we have done a lot more collaborative delivery methods for various reasons. Throughout the pandemic, it was long lead procurement. It took almost 2 years in some instances to get electrical equipment. So that's why we did some of the construction manager at risk or design build procurement methods. The less collaborative delivery methods have their benefits in certain aspects, but certainly CMAR and design build have allowed us to have a lot more partner-based contractual relationships and outcomes for our construction projects. So a bit more on allowances before we get into further. That was the second piece of why this number may be lower than years prior. So though we would love to have a lot more data on what whether allowances were or not included. That potentially could be what's driving some of this. So that number is likely lower, and we're unable to ascertain whether the previous numbers reported included certain allowances, of how they were categorized. So as a reminder, we customarily utilize these and include them in our construction contracts, but we know that, or what we don't know rather, is how those were necessarily coded in the past. And so with some additional time, we would like to identify some of those pieces, but at least for reporting purposes for this presentation, we merely wanted to report, here is the data we do have available. So as we work to set aside some of those known unknowns to our contractors, we know that there is then a scrutiny level needed for allowances in our construction projects. So like I said, they are pseudo change orders within a project of a known quantity because of a known scope, which then runs through a very similar process that we're going to go through here today, which includes documentation and many approvals along the way with our project management and architect and engineer partners to approve any of those allowances along the way. Also happy to report this positive trend is also evident on our modernization contracts. So from 1999 to 2015, change orders represented 6.81% of our total contract value, and from 2016 to 2020, we reduced that down to 3.38%. And continuing with the positive momentum we saw in the new construction, our modernization projects from 2021 to 2025 showed change orders at just 1.85% of total contract value. Again, this is a direct result of a very well-run program, a very talented and dedicated team working tirelessly in the trenches each and every day. And would be remiss if we didn't highlight our collaborative partnerships that we've fostered with many of our contractors. They are our key partners in helping achieve these low percentages in reducing change orders that become mutually beneficial. And so a lot of our modernization projects, we did transition from a hard bid or traditional design bid to a construction manager at risk, and we've seen immense value in that on our latest round of comprehensive modernization. Some of our showpieces are becoming Bonanza High School, Cheyenne High School, very successful construction outcomes at those sites for very complex and logistically challenging properties. So a little bit of next steps. So when do change orders occur? So while we aim to minimize them across the board, change orders most frequently happen during the construction phase of a project. Now this graphic here is meant to represent the typical steps in a customary construction project. And construction change orders, rightfully so, can only happen predominantly during construction. So as a result of something that was not already included in the scope of the work, or included in the initial established contract documents. Now, I'll point out that our intentions or interferences are not contract items, only black and white, or most jurisprudences would indicate that what is on the page is what is in the contract, nothing more, nothing less. So that becomes where change orders get contentious and potentially a bad rap, is we really have to rely upon what's in front of us in the contract documents, and i.e. the blueprints. An important aspect to this is when change orders requests occur, we categorize them at the outset and track them in various categories. This way we can hold various stakeholders accountable throughout the project's life cycle. You'll see here there's approximately 5 typical general categories that we track for various reasons. The first being unforeseen conditions. Now these are the discoveries like mold, asbestos, unaccounted for, or undocumented underground pipes that interfere with planned work. The second would be government levied work. So these are oftentimes a result from external requirements, so utility companies demanding additional offsite improvements, or any new code requirements not identified during the plan review process. The design deficiency then is broken into 2 subcategories because they have different parameters around them. So design deficiency value added. This category generally includes additional scope that was required to complete that was initially omitted from the contract documents, but are things we probably already would have had to pay for on bid day had they been included. So we were already going to be paying for them whether in a change order or on bid day, just they, for a myriad of reasons, were not included in the contract documents. The one that's more infuriating and probably gets the bad rap for change orders is this design deficiency, no value added. It's when we have to pay for things twice that we didn't even want to pay for once. So some examples of this is corrections like relocating a cabinet specified in the wrong place or replacing items that were incorrectly shown on drawings where no new value was added to the project by having to pay that change order. And last but not least, one of the least targeted ones that we try to minimize to our best extent possible is CCSD request items. So these are additional scopes of work requested by district departments that may or may not have been a part of original documentation development that became necessary for that stakeholder to provide the services that they're responsible for providing in our buildings. So at this time, I will hand it over to Mr. Josh Chesnick.
Thank you, Brandon. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. For the record, Josh Chesnick, Interim Director, Construction Management Department. This is a graphic representation. It's more simplified, showing our process and workflow for how the district processes change order requests or CORs. This process for managing change orders is very thorough, multi-layered, and it ensures strict accountability. Detailed procedures on this process are in our Construction Management Department's procedures manual. So to walk through that change order process in a narrative format, when a change order is proposed by the contractor, the contractor submits a change order request. The architect engineer then reviews that request and makes sure that if it needs additional supporting information, they can either reject the change order or propose changes to that change order. Of course, with that, a basis for why it was rejected. They can accept it and move it forward to CCSD staff. They can also schedule a meeting to resolve the issue of the dispute of the change order. So the contractor submits it, the architect engineer reviews it for content to make sure it's valid. And then once that's gone through the scrutiny, then it's forwarded on to the CCSD project manager who reviews it as well. Once that project manager reviews it and accepts it, then it goes to the coordinator 4, who's their supervisor, who then reviews it. At that point, it goes through director, myself, and then ultimately also the chief facility as well. So again, a multi-layered process to make sure that there's some scrutiny on what's being proposed as a change. If that is approved through the process, then a change order authorization is created, which is what then eventually winds up with the Board of Trustees for approval. So again, a simplified version, a graphic format of this. Once it's approved, it moves through the formal process again. The AE, the architect engineer, prepares a change order. The general contractor reviews it to make sure, again, they're in agreement. They're the ones that originally submitted it. Now that it's gone through the scrutiny, do they agree with what was being proposed? And again, goes through the coordinator, the director. If Board of Trustees approval is required, meaning it's over a certain percentage mark points, then Chief Facilities also signs off on it. So again, the change order approval process. The approved change orders, so there may be multiple change order requests on a project. So those are bundled together for one change order authorization that comes to the Board of Trustees. That is documented by the clerk. Then the contractor reviews and signs that change order. Again, they're in agreement with what's being proposed. The change order is sent to the clerk for preparation for a summary sheet. The CCSD project manager reviews the change order and sends it to the coordinator 4 for approval. And then it goes to the director, again, then on to the chief facilities, reviews and signs the change order. So all change orders are documented and accounted for by our facilities, bond fund, and financial management staff as well. And so again, all these steps, we diligently monitor all the activities of our consultants, our architects, our engineers, our contractors, so that all these, we try to avoid these change orders. They're part of a construction process. But we just wanted to demonstrate that there's quite a robust process for us to go through for those change orders to be approved. With that, I'll hand it back over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, Brandon McLaughlin. A critical aspect of our policy is District Policy 7210, This dictates that change orders for new construction projects cumulatively that total more than 3% of the original construction value be presented to the School Board of Trustees with justification and approval. That's many of the change orders you guys review and approve each and every time, or nearly each and every time, though we try to drive it lower each and every time. Similarly, if change orders exceed 5% of the contract value for modernization projects, they too are required for presentation to the Board of School Trustees with justification for approval. Now, the remaining pages are simply just documents of examples of some of the customary documents that are submitted in support of these change order requests and authorizations. So you'll see on page 1 there, that's the typical roll-up. So a subcontractor number is listed, the contractor has their allowable overhead and profit, and any other additional or sub-tier trades in there. They then receive subcontractor proposals on that change order work. That's the far right-hand side document, and that's true of multiple iterations. There's some labor burden forms as well. When I say it takes 70 hours of a technician or a laborer doing something, what are those hours going towards? You see the various job classifications and categories and the wages of all those individuals involved, as well as on formal proposal letterhead. So some just customary documents that are included in these backup reference items. This is one just to highlight. Oftentimes we will involve the distinct contract documents where the change order originated. So this is one where there was a water line issue on a civil drawing. So the civil drawing is attached. We referenced the item that had a change to it. The civil engineer's justification say, yes, this is why it changed. Here's the justification for it. All the while just so that if somebody looks back on this in 10 years, it still logically makes sense of why that change order was paid and processed. So with that, we're happy to turn it over for any closing questions and comments from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the trustees? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. So I know previously this board had voted to increase the threshold to over 100,000 for the change orders, or anything under 100,000, right? So with all of this process that we have internally, do we have any external eyes on the process? Maybe an auditor or some kind of someone from the outside looking in on the process?
Yeah, Brandon McLaughlin for the record. Are you talking about Regulation 3312, the purchasing thresholds?
Yes.
Yes,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to draw
Two
this
different things.
Yep, so there's 2 different statutes that governing purchasing through the district. So 3312 is regulating of Nevada Revised Statute 332, which is goods and services in support of basically any other district operations. Construction is an entirely different procurement method. It's Chapter 338 of Nevada Revised Statute, so follows a whole separate threshold mark within it. And so the thresholds within that are $25,000 and under, and I believe over $100,000 for just the stipulation of prevailing wage, not necessarily governing body approval to execute that contract per se. So just a distinction between that 3312 item, just they're 2 separate tracks. To answer your question about is there additional eyes on it, so the architect engineer, they are what's called an initial decision maker within the industry realm of how those contract delivery methods are developed. They're specifically supposed to be that initial decision maker on behalf of the district to say, is this claim valid or not? And obviously they're getting scrutinized about their own drawings, so they're actually going to, when they act in their own best interest, they also happen to be acting in our best interest to say, no, that item was included in the scope. So that's the one set of eyes. The second part is, yes, internal audit for the district reviews many of our projects after the fact. So that's one audit stream within it, and we've gotten great remarks on many of those audit reports. The second piece, and Mr. Chesnick mentioned it, is our Facilities Bond Fund financial management team. And we actually brought financial auditors in as a part of the customary process during the application for payment phase. So on CMAR projects, when cost of the work plus overhead and profit is the mechanism by which CMAR contractors are paid, we want to make sure we just don't pay them wrongfully for the first time so that we don't have to claw it back later. So that team inserting those individuals into it actually addressed that pretty rapidly, and we've already seen financial benefits of that Basically the savings they saved per project paid basically the salaries and more of funding those individuals to be doing that on each and every project.
Got it. Thank you. And that internal auditing process, do they just randomly select projects, or how's that process for your team?
Brendan McLaughlin for the record. Jeanette and the internal audit team, I don't presume are random, but it's not every project. But it's most projects, and they have about a 2-year window to review projects. That's usually the time frame within many of our contracts for contractors to engage in some of that audit work.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
Thank you for continuing to teach us many things that we don't understand about the district. So I don't know the context of like why we are having the conversation, but it was obviously an ask. So I appreciate the response to that. Is there anything regarding the policy that's new? Because that's the only thing that I'd be concerned about, because these are systems and processes and layers of checks and balances that have been in place for probably decades.
Brandon McLaughlin for the record. Yeah, this was last updated in 2019. I wasn't able to go back and look at what the amendment was at the time, but prior to a month ago, the title chief facilities wasn't a thing until 2019. So I suspect the change in 2019 was merely a title change and maybe some other small acronym-based type improvements. I don't know that with certainty, but that's all I could see of it. But yes, you're right. This goes back to August 11th of 1966, and this policy, or a policy like this, has been in place.
Thank you, Trustee Barron.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. I walked in a few minutes late, right? But this is one of these things that, with over a decade of experience over the city of North Las Vegas, I just want to point out that at the city, we don't have, we have a two-tiered system of oversight and many steps along the way. You have lots of people who are in the know who have a chance to do oversight on this, and I think we're very well served. Oftentimes when we hear, we moan and groan about bureaucratic systems, what people don't understand is sometimes the bureaucratic system is the best way to actually manage, to manage resources. And it was invented, many years ago, many decades, well, a couple of centuries ago, to manage these resources. Change orders, for me, I was taught over at the city of North Las Vegas, you can, on any one given project, whether it's a private or a city project, it's normal to see something between 3 and 5. Matter of fact, normally if it's below 1%, that's where you start asking questions. Above 5%, then you have other problems. Maya Cinemas, of course, that's a private, that was a private project, one of my favorite ones over in North Las Vegas, but no one knew, for instance, that there was a fault line running through the property. And they wound up having to, that caused a change order with the architectural plan. That added like 2% to the architectural, which is, a lot of money, more than I have in my pocket. And then once they started building on it, when they needed to tie into water on Las Vegas Boulevard, turns out they didn't have the water pressure. So now they had to tie in to the to water off Cary, and had they had to go through the city, through the city street, that would have been probably close to $300,000. But luckily, we have a creative staff, and we found a nice workaround, and that only cost them $70,000, right? But the change orders, they're normal, and I think that if you're doing right now, if you guys are keeping it about 1.8%, well, you guys, someone should probably submit the department in for an award. Yeah, because we've gotten over the city of Las Vegas. What is it? The Good Governance Award. We've gotten a couple of times. It's pretty good. You're doing a good job. I do have a question. So I guess you're working really closely with our contractors. I guess at this point, they must know you very well. What is our workaround rate? Do we have a workaround rate that you can point to when it comes to, I don't have to, it's even a question. I mean, we do workarounds over the city oftentimes. It's just something that we do. We're able to work with contractors and stuff, right? where in the process, if we could actually help contractors, stay under budget and on time, right? Is there somewhere along the process that we can intervene?
Brandon McLaughlin for the record, I couldn't even tell you, what our cost avoidance is within it. I mean, that can be as simple as one of our project managers standing on site, working with a skilled tradesman to maybe find a way to better do things. But it can also escalate to multi-million-dollar workarounds, like you said, hey, we can't stomach that big of a change. What are other options can we explore? And we do that at all scales up and down that leadership train. So yeah,
Well, I'm happy to hear that your team is doing what it can to keep the cost down. Most definitely, we like to save a buck whenever we can, right? And so I didn't even understand. I know we had this process, right? But I didn't realize we had the multi-tier levels of this, which this is it's a fantastic presentation. I guess one good thing is we could see, this is good for the public to see as well. I would like them to see that, of course, the public trust, their trust is being supported by this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Satori. And then Vice President Zamora, I'm going to ask you if you have any questions. Trustee Satori.
Yes, thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. These numbers look excellent. It's definitely great to see that percentage dropping. Not having a frame of reference, though, like I said, the numbers look amazing. Do we know kind of a comparison to other large districts and maybe where they fall? Because it does seem like this would be something we are leading the charge on as well. Like, these numbers are great.
we don't have that available for other districts. It would be interesting to kind of our 7 polling districts, how we rate with that. Trustee Barone did bring up a good point. Projects customarily, and this is across the industry, at least to my knowledge around the country, 2 to 5% is a pretty customary range. If you're in that sweet spot, you're doing really good.
Excellent.
If you're up toward 10%, there's something going on. Either you got a bad architect or a bad contractor. So I think we're right in that sweet spot where things are efficient, but obviously we're being a partner in many instances. So, but yeah, if we pull that and we're able to obtain that, we'll provide it to the board and follow up.
Thank you. Trustee Zamora, any questions from you?
I don't have any questions. I do want to thank Trustee Baron because that context was helpful to really kind of see the great work that we're doing here. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Next, we're going to go, Mr. Caruso, are we ready? Yep, okay. We're going to go back to 2.01 and 2.02. Before I open those, for 2.01, is there anyone that did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? Okay, seeing none, that part is closed. Mr. Caruso, if you have the handouts, do we have handouts? Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Alsbury, are you still on the line?
I am.
Okay. Give us about 30 seconds to get the information in front of us, the hard copies. Thank you. Mr. Caruso, there's 3 different documents. Which one should we have first?
Okay, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Joe Caruso for the record. So my apologies for the delay. We experienced some technological challenges, but we overcame them with speed of light without speeding through the lights on the way here. So we're grateful for the amazing staff that helped get these together. There are 2 PowerPoints because we have to post the reference material for both, because there's a slide in here that's actually for part 2.02. So just for transition's sake, if Dr. Alsbury jumps to that before we get to it, we did post it on both items.
Thank you. So the one that we should be looking at the top, it's a little bit dark, but it should say Balanced Governance Comprehensive Board Evaluation, Timeline and Procedures Overview, right? That's the one we should be looking at.
So, Madam President, if you flip to page 2 of the PowerPoint, if you look at the very bottom in the center, it says additional reference 2.01.
Yes,
That's the version you want to look at.
okay. I just want to make sure the team has that's where we're going to start.
And then, Madam President, Dr. Alsbury is going to tell me to advance the slide. He is on a Google Meet, so he can see us, but unfortunately, we can't see him, but he is able to hear us.
Okay, Dr. Alsbury, please move forward.
All right, thank you, President, and thank you, Superintendent and trustees for having me tonight. I appreciate that. Just a slight correction. I actually cannot see any of you. I can see the slides, is my understanding when they come up, so that's good. But I guess we can't see each other, but I can hear you just fine. So I'm gonna give Mr. Caruso directions to advance the slides, all right? And so thank you. That I see that first one up. So tonight we're going to be going go on to the next one. Joe, the slide number 2. We're going to be moving through these 2 basic areas. And the first one is wanted to review the board's evaluation. Now, the board evaluation process, the timeline, that's if we're going to meet our timeline that we had in our proposal, we need to start the process and start it immediately. So this is a timely opportunity for me to answer any questions and go through the process with you, because my plan is that I would then send out the first surveys, which would be online surveys with the instructions to you tomorrow, August the 7th would be my plan. Okay. All right.
And
Great.
Dr. Alsbury, can I just pause you? This is President Bustamante Adams. For the team, we have never done a board evaluations since Trustee Zamora and I joined the board. So this is something new for us, right? It's part of our commitment to evolve and to grow. And so this is something new. Trustee Cavazos may have experienced it in the past in her previous term, but for this, it'll be a new journey for all of us. So thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Alsbury.
You bet. And so, Joe, you can go on to the next slide. So the first part, our first topic, or this topic that we're dealing with now, is to do that timeline and the procedures review, answer any questions. So thank you, President, for saying that. I want to first congratulate the board on its willingness to go through a process that is this involved. This is not your typical board evaluation that you may have seen in the past. Normally those evaluations, maybe it's 1 or 2 pages. It'll say things like, was the board effective in its work? And there'll be a Likert scale, agree, disagree, etc. Often, that gives us some idea, a board, some idea of how things are going, but it doesn't give them in my opinion, the specificity that they need to know exactly what areas they can improve in. Usually it's typically one piece as well, which is that self-assessment. This evaluation, again, my congratulations to the board, is that they are choosing to go through a much more in-depth, much more intensive evaluation. And I think that that's a wise thing to do. I think it's going to give you some great direction on areas of improvement for the board. And I appreciate the board's willingness to put themselves out there and be the best that they can be. Specific to the balanced governance evaluation, there are in fact 3 portions, 3 different parts to the evaluation. You see them listed here. First of all, there are 2 different surveys that I'll be sending you. Let me say that appreciate the comment by the president. Other districts that I've worked with, of course, there's always a first time to do this balanced governance evaluation. And so I will do everything that I can and that has been effective in the past with other districts to, as we go through this process, board members you will receive emails from me. They will be, very detailed with all of the steps that you're going to be asked to go through, explaining it. In addition, the surveys themselves, which are online, will also have very detailed instructions and information. This information should have some familiarity because it's attached to the training. We went through this in our initial balanced governance training, but it's been a few months since we had that training, and so it's a reminder to the board. And in addition, let me say that as I'll repeat in my emails to you that you'll be receiving, like I say, tomorrow, the first emails, I will offer you at any point to contact or reach out to me if you're uncertain about how to fill the form out or how to access the form, et cetera. I haven't had really much trouble along those lines, but occasionally there's an issue, and I just want you to know that you can always reach out to me if you have any questions. There are the three sections. I'll go through them and show you a little bit of them. Like I said, number 1 and 2 here are online surveys. One thing that I'll remind you of, and I'll remind you again of this in the email, is that you will be receiving two emails from me. The title of the emails will be explicit to these 2 surveys. One will say survey number 1, balanced governance standards evaluation. And then the second email will say survey number 2, individual practices survey. And so please don't think, oh, Tom just sent me 2 emails accidentally. I didn't. There are 2 different surveys because they do 2 completely different things. It's to evaluate you as a board. And so you do want to fill out both of the surveys. The third section, and it has to do with external observations. And so I'll get to the details. So Joe, you can go ahead and move on. Let me get into some of the details. So the first online survey, you're going to receive a survey that asks you to rate yourselves based upon whether you believe that the board has been distinguished, proficient, developing, or has areas of growth required on 12 different balanced governance standards. These are the standards that we have found the most effective boards in the country utilize and focus in on. The standards, each of the standards have indicators under each of those 12 standards. In total, the board, just for the standards, you will be evaluating yourselves on 81 indicators. So Joe, if you want to go to the next slide. So for example, this would be one of those 81 indicators. You'll be given the indicator. This one is from standard number 3. Board members promote change through dialogue and collaboration, and you'll simply note whether you believe that the board is distinguished, proficient, developing, or it's an area of growth required. And so that constitutes the first one. Now, Joe, if you'll flip back to the previous slide. Just a note from me that sometimes I'll have board members see this survey and they'll be concerned. Oh my goodness, 81 different things. This is going to take forever. It does not. I'm using an online system that allows me, amongst many other things, to track the actual amount of time that it has taken the many boards members who have, many trustees who have done this survey. It tells me how much time does it take folks to do this survey. The average to complete this is 15 minutes. Now, certainly a board member can take longer than that. I have seen board members take in the range of 20-ish minutes to do this survey. But don't panic. It is a lot of indicators. these are very important because it's going to allow us to be very specific in your analysis of what specific areas of change or growth that is needed according to you. And so please just work through it, and it will not be as painful as it might originally seem. The other thing that I'll note is that when I send this, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to complete this online, both of these online surveys, and hit submit, and then it will come back to me. I'll be able to see which of the trustees have completed each of the 2 surveys. And then what I'll do is I'll keep in touch with Joe and your president, typically, unless you direct me to do otherwise. And I just will keep them updated. So I'll say that these are the surveys that have been completed. These are the surveys that are still yet to be completed, just to help us to kind of track that. If we start getting close to the deadline, the 2-week deadline, and I'm not seeing the surveys completed, then I'll ask the president to send an email of reminder to the trustees to please make sure that we meet the deadline. Remember that all of our other dates, that is the creation of the report itself, and then the eventual delivery of the board evaluation to you in advance, requires that we stick with our timeline. If we're past the timeline and we have to wait to get the data in, then of course, then we're back to having the conversation about changing the dates again. So Joe, you can go to the next slide. So just would encourage you to just be sure that you try to get the surveys completed within the 2-week time limit, if you would. Go on to the next slide, Joe. Thank you. The second survey is going to focus in on 10 trustee practices. Now, these are individual reflections or evaluations of your own practice and your colleagues' practice. This is also an online survey. It also takes about 15 minutes to complete. And as I mentioned to you, you'll have the same 2 weeks to complete that and get it into me. Now, in this evaluation, you will be given a continuum, and Joe, you can go to the next slide. This is the evaluation. This particular one of the 10 would be called the use of voice practice. And you'll see that in the survey, you'll be given a continuum where on one side in this particular practice, we'll say, do I hear and understand? On the right side of the extreme, it will say, do I tell and sell? Now, a couple of things that I want to point out, that when you receive this survey, it will give a description, an explanation out. I've actually done this with you in the training. I've given you materials and I've described each one of these 10 practices. But again, just as a reminder, the survey will have a detailed description of what does it mean to hear and understand, what does it mean to tell and sell. The other thing that I'll indicate in the survey, it will say, this is where highly effective boards are. And so in this particular one, the most highly effective boards are on the left side of this continuum. They would have their data points would be located under area number 1, 2, and 3 on the left-hand side. Now, I mention this because please be sure that you read the instructions of the survey. I have had board members say, Tom told me everything should be balanced, and so they'll just go through all 10 of these and just put a 5, 5, 5, 5 down every one of them. Please don't do that unless it really is a 5. Okay. Of course, you want to put what you believe it is, but be sure to read those instructions and don't inadvertently think, oh, 5's a really good number for this category. In this case, it's not a good number. A good number would be 1, 2, or 3. So make sure that you just read those instructions. Now, as I show on this slide, you'll be rating yourself on where you think you are on this continuum in this and the 9 other categories. In addition, you will be putting a rating of where you think each of your other colleagues are on the board as well. And so what that will produce, it will produce this type of a data set. And this is what I wanted to show you so that it lowers fear. One of the things is this kind of an evaluation is very unique. I've never seen it done with any other training program. It's also from my boards that I work with, they will tell you their favorite piece and the most helpful piece because it actually gives them personal areas of reflection that they can use. Now, but you can see that there's a kind of fear threshold here because you don't have to be afraid because this is the kind of chart that when I present the report in the public board meeting to you, which is required, that it's not going to be an embarrassment to anybody. As you can see, when you're rating yourself and each other, there's that understandable fear that, oh, boy, isn't this going to call somebody out or embarrass somebody? And you can see it won't do that. That when you rate yourself and everybody else does the same thing, we have many, many anonymous data points. This gives you a whole board profile that we'll discuss together. And I'll be giving ratings of the board on both of these survey results, as well as giving the board recommendations on ways that I believe that they can make some improvements in these areas. So Joe, you can go to the next slide. In addition to that, you've opted to allow me to do work with you individually. So after these data come in, I'll be working during the month of September and October there to work with you individually, one-on-one, and to talk to you about the results that came in just for each trustee. Now, because this is more personal, I wanted to show you there's fewer data points. They're all still anonymous. If we look at that same category, the use of voice, you see the smiley face there would be where that board member rated themselves. The rest of the dots are where the rest of their colleagues rated them. And we would discuss this if this were your data, say. We would discuss what this means, how it connects to highly effective board practice, and then I would provide you with recommendations depending upon where the data falls. We're looking for a variety of things here, which I won't explain tonight unless you have additional questions about it. But obviously, we're looking for the board perception. That is, the smiley face should be grouped with the rest of their colleagues. If it is not, like in this case, in this example, it means that their colleagues don't view them in the same way. They don't perceive that their practices are the same as that individual perceives it. And that's going to be a particular type of coaching and recommendation from me on how we can address that. The second thing we'll look at is the spread of the data. This data here you can see is quite spread out, which tells me that an awful lot of their colleagues, the board member colleagues, aren't sure where this board member fits on this continuum. And there's typically a reason for that. And again, that's a different kind of coaching and direction from me. And then, of course, in this one, you want to be on the left-hand side of this particular continuum. And you can see that there's a lot of data on the right-hand side. So that would be a third element of self-reflection. Now, this particular option, because it is more personal and individual, it is an optional thing for the trustees. That is that you don't need to do this coaching or see this data from me. If you do choose to, then that would be a one-on-one independent appointment that you would make with me for us to discuss. Okay. Most board members do choose to do it, and those that have, those few that have chosen not to, usually the following year, they choose to do it because the other board members, this is so popular with board members. Okay, but this would be completely private, just between myself and the board member, this data and my recommendations and my coaching. It wouldn't be shared with anyone else, including the board officers, the board president, or the superintendent or anyone else. Okay, next slide. Now, part of what, and this is what I just talked about, that individual coaching option. So you can go to the next slide, Joe. The third part of the board evaluation is external observation. So I and one of my colleagues who is trained in balanced governance, has conducted research on balanced governance, Dr. Kristen Miles, will be independently observing three board meetings. Independently will assess your practices in those meetings. We then compare our notes to ensure that we have inter-rater reliability, and I'll be bringing, that'll also be included then in the final board report. So all three of these sections will be included in the final board report: the standards, the practices, and the observational analysis with recommendations. The individual trustee data, coaching, and recommendations will not be included in the board report. That again will be private and separate. The question marks that you see there is just to keep the whole process as objective as we can. There have been 3 meetings. I've asked that the meetings be selected by your president and your officers. That would be considered typical meetings, because we want to see normal, typical meetings. We have already conducted observations and analysis for your June 26th meeting. These would be regular board meetings, and the July 10th regular board meeting. There is a third board meeting. That date has been selected, but I'm choosing to put question marks because I don't want you to say, oh, we know that Dr. Miles and Tom are watching us, and so we're going to change our behavior a little bit. We don't want that to happen, and that's why I have question marks there. But obviously, it's going to be a board meeting that'll be coming up. All right, next slide. In the observational meetings, this does a variety of things. The first thing is that it helps me certainly in the individual coaching. I'll get a lot of my cues as far as why do my colleagues not understand where I'm coming from, or they're perceiving me differently than I perceive myself, let's say with the telling and selling or the hearing and understanding others. Because I've watched your meetings and I've watched you in action and other board members, I'll have a very good idea of how to coach you. The other thing that the observations do is they look at a variety of metrics, and we'll go through these quickly. These are just examples, but it'll show your average board meetings, the length of your board meetings, and we will benchmark that against high performing boards, as you can see here in this graph, low performing boards. And you see there's 2 low performing boards because low performing boards tend to have really long meetings, so 5 hours or more. Low performing boards can sometimes have really short meetings. If the board is a rubber stamp board, their meetings aren't very long. There's no discussion, or they're just making motions and approving whatever has been put before them by the superintendent. Board members that are micromanaging, their meetings tend to be too long. The most effective boards that we found were at about 2.5 to 3 hour board meetings. That was the norm. This particular data is from an actual board that I evaluated, and you can see that their average meeting length was over 7 hours. And so there's some adjustment that is needed. Next slide. We'll also look at what you're doing in those meetings. So how much time is dedicated to public comment, to recognitions versus reports, board reports that come and then to you, that is data that is tracking the progress on your strategic goals, as well as the board discussing that data that and reports that they're receiving. The most effective boards spend about 70% of their time receiving data that tracks their goals and their discussion around that data and those reports. And they spend minimal time on other things in board meetings with operations and management, et cetera. So next slide. Another characteristic we'll look at is how many topics are you trying to cover? And I'm talking about substantive topics, not the flag salute, adjournment, consent agenda. Some of those things, which are just routine, are not included, but we're talking about reports have been presented. You've had discussion. It's a time intensive topic that's on your agenda, not something that you do in a minute. Highly effective boards don't try to tackle too many very substantive items. It's between 3 and 4, and you can see that low performing boards either do very few things because they're not really engaging in oversight, or they do way too many. You can see this particular board tried to do way too many, which is why their meetings were 7 hours long. And people were fatigued and they couldn't make good decisions. Next slide. This particular one is another element that we'll look at, which is, again, how much time is being spent on discussing operations and management minutia, and how much time is being spent on you monitoring the strategic goals that you said were the most important thing for the board to be monitoring. So we'll give you that number. Again, goal monitoring should be at about 70%. Next slide. This is a slightly different spin on the previous graph. It can be a little bit different. We're looking at what amount of time are you spending on topics that directly impact student performance, learning performance, versus supportive performance. And both of those things are important. As in most districts, amongst your strategic goals, you'll have strategic goals potentially on the facility. On finance and things like that. Well, as those are critical, of course, but they are supportive of education, transportation, food service, those kinds of things. Critical again, but I would say they support good instruction or movement toward learning performance in students. But there's other things that are much more direct impact on student performance that we found. And so we do a comparison of that. So it is possible that board could say, Tom, we spent 70% of our time on our strategic goals, monitoring them. And I'll say, yep, you did. So good for you. But unfortunately, almost all that time you spent talking about facilities. You didn't spend any time on your student performance outcome goals. And so that's why we do this second graph. Next slide. I'll also list out the actual topics that were covered, and you can see here. And again, this was real data for during the COVID years, so it's a couple of years old. But we'll explicitly list those out and also give percentages that show what % of your meetings did you spend discussing each of these topics. This is another really specific way to say, are we talking about or monitoring our strategic goals? And for highly effective boards, the answer is yes, that on this list, you should see your strategic goals listed. If you don't see them listed, or if you see them, but you're spending virtually no time overseeing them, and you're spending all your time, again, on management issues, then that's not as effective in terms of the results that we see for boards. Okay, next slide. We'll also do several other, by the way, evaluations of those observations, including what we call bridging and bonding comments that are being made during the board meeting. Comments made that build the team, that would be bonding. Comments made that build relationship with the community, which would be bridging. And so we'll do an analysis of that as well. Now, to the timeline, the specific timeline for this board evaluation, I've already mentioned that I'd like to be able to send both of the surveys to you tomorrow. That would make the due date August the 21st for you to complete those online surveys. We will complete the observations by September, by the 1st of September, or during the month of September sometime. The board evaluation actual report itself, I'll put that together in September. And then you will have finished, I'll finish in September. So then I am able to begin to work with any of the board members who want to do the one-on-one coaching with me. We can do that in September. Okay. So that's why the report, the evaluation itself will actually be done quite early September, but I need the month, obviously, to meet with each of the individual trustees who choose to take the individual coaching option. Okay, next slide. So then I'll do the individual coaching in September. As you can see there, the whole evaluation will be finished by September the 25th and delivered to the trustees from me. I'll send that to all of the trustees. And unless I'm directed otherwise through Joe, if there's a different method, like if I send them to him and then have him forward whatever your process is that works for getting ready for your meeting and following the law and everything, that'll be key. And then there'll be a time in October where I'll come in person and present the results of the board evaluation. Typically, when we do this, there's a session before the official board meeting. So I typically come on a board meeting day. I meet with the board prior to the actual board meeting, the public board meeting. It's still it's a work session. It still obviously meets all of your open public meeting rules. But it's an opportunity for me to be very specific in going through these various pieces of data and answering your questions. And then typically I'm there, so I'll stay and be on the official board meeting itself. And I'll do a more summarized version for the public where I explain how the evaluation worked, what the pieces of it were, and then the overall results of the evaluation. I won't typically spend the several hours, obviously, it takes to go through each of those individual 81 indicators and those kinds of things during the public meeting. So that's typically how we do that process. And that is, I think that's it, right, President, for this part of the agenda?
Yes, I think, I'm looking at Mr. Caruso. I know, yes, because the rest of it is our board policy and handbook revision. So if we can pause and see if there's any questions from trustees. I'll start with our vice president first and then move on to the others. Vice President Zamora, do you have any questions?
I have one question. Thank you, President. Dr. Alsbury, I know you said that you were able to track if trustees are filling out their evaluations. Has there been an instance where maybe a trustee just time came up, we've missed the deadline? Do we continue on with what we have, or is it all put on hold, or what has
Yeah,
been?
yeah, thank you. It's a great question. And it's a decision that you would make, that again, the president and the officers typically make that call as we get to that deadline. I always want to be flexible. And so what I'll do is say, we have two options. We can move forward without those trustees data in the evaluation. I don't like to do that, but that is an option. The other option is I'll say, I'm perfectly fine with delaying things. If we want to wait and give folks more time, then instead of me, say, presenting your final evaluation at the end of October board meeting, maybe I'm coming in the November board meeting and presenting the final evaluation results. I'm perfectly happy to be flexible in that way. Now, certainly one of the things that we'll be talking about, I think, tonight, I don't want to overstep my bounds, and I can't see the attorney, so usually I look at the attorney and make sure I'm not going outside my bounds here. But one of the things is we're going to talk about, I think, the proposal and the fact that we currently have months in the contract proposal. And every time that happens, trustees and more, that type of thing, that delay, I'm happy to be flexible. But the question is, do then we have to completely revise the proposal and bring it back to a board meeting to officially have you approve that kind of a change? Now, that certainly it's fine, but it just delays everything, obviously, even
And
more.
Dr. Alsbury, I did get to speak to our legal counsel earlier, and they did indicate that we could put in a motion. We can't do it today because we should have put it in the agenda to ask to have the ability to be flexible with the timeline. But we don't have that in front of us today, so we would have to wait to the next board work session in September in order to be able to put the motion in to have the flexibility. We would write it into the agenda. So,
Okay, that's fantastic news. So then if the board approves that ability for us to be flexible with these dates a little bit, then that's my answer. And I tend, so I'm not being flaky here on both sides. I tend to say I'd much rather get the data in if we can get those trustees. Now, if the trustees are saying, I don't want to do this, then that's different. Then we go with what we've got. But normally I've said, let's wait so we can get all the data in.
Thank you. And I just have one more question, President. Is there another cost for the individual coaching?
No, there is not. That's part of the contract.
Thank you for that. That's all my questions.
thank you, Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Vice President Zamora, because I was going to ask about, how we were going to do that. So thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to ask Dr. Ellsbury, on these, I'm on page 12 of 25, and some of the other graphics that we used. Was this an urban district, a small district? Could you give us a little bit of information about the demographics of the district that was observed?
Yeah, when I do thank you, it's a great question. When I do the charts for your district, I'll do like districts, and specific to these slides starting on 12, it is an urban district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not unlike yours. Well, there's nobody quite like Clark County. You guys have this county consolidation. So you're much bigger than most, even urban, in my home state here in Seattle, by far the biggest school district in the entire state. People say Seattle's huge. Well, it's only got 30,000 students in it.
Uh-huh.
So to you, it's dinky. It's small. So, but I compare it against urban comparatives. Yeah.
Well, I would never, ever call another district dinky. I was just wondering if the demographics were similar to ours, but thank you so much for the information. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Ellsbury, thank you for that briefing. My question was more towards the one-on-one trustee evaluation. How long does it take? Is it a day thing? Is it an hour thing? Is it, and how are you gonna, I guess, what are your thoughts on managing 11 people?
Yeah, 11 is a lot, but I'm feeling confident that we can do that. I'm available, throughout the day. And typically what I'll do is work with Mr. Caruso when we've done this in the past with your district, then he'll help with that. So he'll say, we'll try to schedule these out in over several days time. And the most important question you ask is the amount of time. It's about an hour. So usually we put a buffer on either side of that hour of about 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. And so then it's not uncommon for us to schedule, several of these during even a single day. So that allows us to get that many done, during the month of September.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Esparza-Straffagan.
Thank you, Dr. Alsbury, so much. It's great to hear your voice. I appreciate just really the information. I try to take notes because we didn't have this as a document electronically. One thing I'm interested in is when you talk about high-performing boards, and I know you want us to actually evolve and learn and go through this process of self-evaluation and you observing us all. Can you share with us maybe in the future some articles that would talk about what are those patterns and characteristics as a whole? I was doing my best to take some notes on what you were saying for each point of what high-performing boards actually do and focus on. Is that something you in the future would be willing to share with us?
Yeah, and I've actually already shared it with you because the balanced governance model itself comes from this data. The standards emanated from data of the two national studies that we conducted. And then we reverse engineered it to come up with the 12 standards and the 10 practices and the observational items. Those are incorporated from a research perspective. Unfortunately, there aren't many empirical studies that have been done other than ours. So I'm not being egomaniacal. It's just very few of these studies have been conducted that we weren't part of. Where I say I already done that is but I'm happy to send this again in the training materials that I originally provided to you when I came and did the balanced governance training. You might recall the first pages 3 through 7 of that worksheet of the workbook materials was a list of citations, and that's your answer. Those are the empirical studies, the books, the chapters, the data that supports these various criteria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Dr. Alsbury, and I appreciate that because I did read, and I like the information that you have on slide 14, talking about real examples of the number of topics that were substantive per meeting, and I think I just personally, as an individual, want to dig into some examples of that. So I appreciate you sharing that. It gives me just some homework. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I want to ask our board liaison, do you have any comments on this section before we move on?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Joe Caruso for the record. So I think if we can, I would recommend this board evaluation timeline and procedures before we lock in the dates, September 25th and October 3rd. I think we need to go to the next part because that kind of goes in tandem with the date, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get to that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Alsbury, if you could move forward to our update on the policy and handbooks.
Sure. So I'll go ahead and advance the slide. So our next topic is the policy and handbook revision. As you know, we already spent a day together going through that very extensive handbook and all the various topics in that handbook. And also that those, of course, correspond to cross-reference policies of yours. And I made recommendations on those policy changes as well. The handbook matches the policy. So you want to go to the next slide. So what I think I'm going to recommend is that we focus in here in a work session together. There's an additional work session. And this was not a planned work session in the original proposal that I sent you. However, and I think this is what Joe was alluding to. I'll show you a timeline in a moment. I had planned on coming out and spending time in person, working with the superintendent, with some, say, additional training that for the superintendent. That was part of the proposal. I was only going to spend about an hour, between 1 to 2 hours on that training, and basically answering any questions that the superintendent has about how to implement balanced governance, and also doing some planning as far as good dates for training their leadership team and some things like that. Well, I'm throwing out in response to a request by the president and the officers that it would be good for us to have another amount of time to go back after I've done the revisions on the policies, sent those to you, for us to actually be able to in person sit down and go through those revision recommendations that I'm making for you, based upon the comments that I heard in our previous session. I hadn't put that in the proposal, but what I'm offering is, since I'm there anyway doing something else, I'm willing to, at no additional cost to you, to work with you in a multi-hour session with the board to review those revisions, and so that I'm there for any additional questions or changes that you would like to see. What we're going to do is I'll bring the actual for that session. I'll bring the policies. We won't focus on the handbook. We'll focus on the policies themselves and the changes there. Then the process is after that day where we are together and you give me hopefully any final revisions or changes that you'd like to see in those policies. I'll craft those as a draft, submit them, and then you would go through your regular first reading, second reading, and hopefully approve those policies. Then what I would do, once those policies, those governance policies, are approved with any new language that we've put in there, then I would simply just take that language and make sure that it's consistent, that it is transferred to the handbook that we went through together. And therefore the handbook should match with the policies. There shouldn't be any issue then with you accepting that handbook. The next step after that draft handbook, that handbook is revised one more time based on the policy approval. Then that'll be sent to legal, just to make sure that there aren't any Nevada codes that are incorrectly cited or whatever. Or if there's been revisions in the Nevada code, we need to know about that. And then also any staff things or questions that they have regarding the procedures the board will engage in. Typically that, I would think that would be the superintendent and any staff that they think would be important to look at those processes. And there's a lot of things the staff, like the way they're assisting you as board members, the way they're responding to you for information requests, the way that they're putting reports together to present to your board meetings, are all part of those policies in that handbook. And we certainly want to make sure that any questions are answered and that there's consistency there. And then any final change would be included and indicated. In all cases, with these various revisions of the policies and then eventually the handbook, all revisions will be done by my striking any words that are to be removed, doing a strike through, that is. So you can still see those words with the line through it. And then any new language I would put in red type. Revisions that are then subsequently done by the attorney's review or the superintendent staff review of that, anything that they're suggesting or recommending for revision would be included in that same document with strikeouts, and any additional language would be in a different colored font. I think we've settled on blue. So then when the policies come to you, when the handbook comes to you for your first reading, second reading, and hopeful approval, you'll be able to see which revisions I put in, which would be in red, and any suggested revisions that the staff or the attorneys put in, which would be in blue, so you could distinguish those. And of course, then you just go through your normal process. Go to the next slide, Joe, and then we'll open it up to questions. This is just a timeline of that procedure that I just described. So the plan is that by August the 15th, I would provide for you the policies with, again, the strikeout and red. That would go to Mr. Caruso on August the 16th. That's so that before it goes to the board, we need to have the staff and legal do any revision recommendations they have in blue. They would complete their revisions by September the 8th, and they would send them back to me. And then I would just make sure that the policies are ready to go with all of the various revision recommendations. And those would be posted on September the 25th, and that's per open meeting requirement. Okay, next slide. Then I would be there October the 3rd. This is the date that is being recommended to the board, that I am out there on October the 3rd to both do any superintendent, answer any superintendent implementation questions, as well as this review of the revision, the policy revisions that we've got. And we'll spend we'll have set aside a good amount of time, 4 hours, I would say at least, to just make sure that these look good and that they are ready to then go, to an official first reading. So the outcome of that October 3rd, I would go back, make any final revisions that the board seems to be asking for. There seems to be consensus around. So you have as clean a draft as possible in your policies, and then I would turn it over to your president and Mr. Caruso to then start the process of the first reading, second reading, posting those policy changes just like you normally would do. The hope is that the policies are adopted by the board in December or January at the latest. If we can do that, then I can incorporate the newly adopted policy language into the handbook and give you a real final firm draft of the handbook in February, and so that you then could adopt it either in February or March, depending on if there are any further changes needed. Those last dates are I'm just spitballing here a little bit. Obviously, if there's more revising that the board needs to do, things could move a little bit slower and in that from December through March, or they could move faster. If we've done our job and there's no big concerns, there is the potentiality that the board could approve the policies in the first reading, or and not have to go through multiple readings. And then that certainly speeds things up. So I think that's it for that part.
Thank you, Dr. Ellsbury. Any questions from the trustees? We'll start with Vice President Zamora first and then take other questions. Trustee Zamora, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Any other questions from other trustees? Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
Dr. Alsbury, when you make a reference to having legal counsel review that, what is your recommendation? Because now that we have our own board counsel, would it be both counsel? I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I don't know that I have the perfect answer for this. I would think either one of the councils could answer this. It's about, does the language, comply to fit with state statute? For one, I'll tell you that on these policies, I'm not going to change any of the previously referenced NRS statutes, numbers, or anything like that. So this is mainly going to be, has there been a revision to a Nevada statute that I didn't know about, that or that has happened since you previously did these policies? That's the other thing that can happen. For any kind of statutes that I'm using, I've gone directly to the Nevada, the posted statutes at the state capitol, and I'm pulling that language verbatim. But it's possible that some of the cross-reference numbers and things in these policies, which were approved, I think back in 2021, around there, that since then those statutes could have changed or the numbers could have changed. So that's mainly what it is. I would think either one of the councils would be able to do that, but.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos, did you still have a question?
That was partially answered by Trustee Esparza Stoffergen's question. I was just kind of want to remind all of our colleagues that, we ask all of our educators in this district to be accountable and to stick to certain timelines. And I think that if we want to think very seriously that short of emergencies, that, delay in getting this done that we have asked for and that all of us have worked very hard for in training is also going to delay implementation. And we are trying to get to a very, very effective board practice. So just wanted to throw that out there. And Dr. Alsbury answered my question already about counsel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from trustees? Okay, then I'm going to ask our board liaison, is there anything that you would like to add?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Joe Crusoe for the record. So I appreciate the conversation. I think that this is helpful to give the board a high level of where we are, where we're going, and really teach, because this is, as you said before, new. A couple of things that I want to make sure we emphasize. So the ask with the policies when it comes to the red font and blue font is really important, because when we follow the same process as the district. So when the superintendent staff brings you a policy and regulation, they do the addition and deletion in the footnote, and then they underline or underscore, because that's one group that's bringing it to you. Now you have two groups in essence. You have Dr. Alsbury, and then you have the superintendent staff plus legal looking at it. So we want to show the transition or the transgression or the change. Thank you. Transformation. Thank you. I'm trying to get that word. So that you can see this is what Dr. Alsbury is saying. This was what we had striked out. This is what he's saying in red, and then what superintendent staff, legal is recommending in blue. So then when we bring it back to you, you can see, because there is language in there that still exists from 2016. And that language, when we adopted those policies as a board, or when you adopted them as a board in 2016, we rolled from policy governance. And if you think of policy governance, when I trained with the Carvers, it was learning the thous and shalls. So there's some language from policy governance that when Dr. Alsbury changed it to balanced governance, some of that language may have to be adjusted. So that's when the staff review is really good, because there's a lot of things in there like the strategic imperatives, the pledge of achievement, things that no longer exist that have transitioned. So it's going to take some time for us to go through it. On the legal review side, that's a whole nother piece, because there are a lot of NRS references, like Dr. Alsbury said. So to try to make sure the policies are as clean as can be before the handbook is revised, because really the policies are what guide the work. So we want to make sure that we take our time with that. So on that note, the reason that some of the dates are listed in here is that, and I want to target September 25th, So if the board agrees to do a retreat on October 3rd, by your policies, we would have to post the reference material on the 25th. So it's important that if the board agrees to doing that on the 3rd, then the date of the 25th really becomes locked in so that we know that that's the date that we need to publicly post. Now, if we change any of that, obviously then, and that's going to be the next conversation with the proposal, but it gets kind of, there's a lot of work to be done, so without having some set dates, it's kind of hard to lock it in. So on that note, as Dr. Alsbury said before, originally when he built this proposal for the board back in April when the board reviewed it, it wasn't built for him to come back a second time to review the policies, but because of the conversation and as Dr. Alsbury said, the need, it definitely helps that he's tagging it with the training that he's providing to Superintendent Ebert. But with that said, there's no additional funding built within the proposal because we didn't build a buffer zone. The board approved it written as is. So when we talked about the board evaluation on October 3rd, Dr. Alsbury's, and I want to make sure I say this correct, Dr. Alsbury had built the proposal where there was a work session of 4 hours that was built in for that. So the thought was to use some of that funding since he's here to tag it in. And then if he were to come back at a following point, so in essence, he's flying back to Las Vegas to try to help minimize the cost. So Dr. Alsbury, did I capture that correctly to what we?
Yeah, that's right. And one of the changes, because we're wanting to do this second review of the policies and the proposed date is October the 3rd, it raises this question of, in the original plan on October the 3rd, I was going to do 1 to 2 hours superintendent training. I was going to present the board evaluation results, which typically takes several hours. I would say we could do it in 2 hours. Now we're sort of adding on to that the review of these policies, of all the governance policies in a second round of review. And, I'm willing to attempt to do all 3 of those things on October the 3rd. We might find that I think the main priority is to get those policies done. That's priority number 1. The board my reporting the board evaluation results do not have to come on October 3rd. They could come on a later board meeting and a later time. And so my recommendation is that we set a 4-hour training session just for the board and the governance policies. If we can do this, that I would come prepared to also share the board evaluation results. But if we run out of time and we need the full time to go through those policy revisions, that then we could just say, okay, we didn't get to the board evaluation part. We're going to table that and we'll reschedule another date for me to come out and do that part. Again, I'm happy to do that way, to be flexible, to allow us to add this second review time in on the 3rd of October.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Alsbury. Mr. Caruso, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Trustee Bustamante Adams. So, Dr. Alsbury, I appreciate that. So just, I'm trying to make sure we're staying within the budget. So if coming back out for the October 3rd, doing the superintendent piece in the morning, and then having that 4-hour session for policy review, but we would still have the opportunity, or the board would still have the opportunity for you to come back out in service number 5 for the self-assessment at a later time. Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you how I'm doing that, because you'll notice that on service number 4, the district training, the leadership training, if we can do that together with the board evaluation presentation on the same day, then I don't have to come out a separate time. So that would be my recommendation. And if we can do that, because it'll be about 3 to 4 hours for the district leadership training. And then I could spend about 2 hours with the board to give them their evaluation and then stay after for the board meeting that night to provide the public report of the board evaluation. We could do that in a day. It would be a full day, but we certainly could do that. And then we would still be within budget. I would just be coming out the one time, which I had planned to do anyway.
Thank you. Now that is just for, we're not going to, and Mr. Caruso helped me with that. We're not going to vote on that until 2.02 when we make revisions to the proposal. Is that correct?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, correct. So and one thing, working with board counsel, Mr. Parker, was great to clarify. So the teachable moment, because Dr. Alsbury's work is tied to action items, from now on, all the items will be listed as discussion and possible action, because a lot of them do have timelines in it. So that's why we had the amended agenda today. But I do think, just if I can clarify though, so if the intent is for us to have the board evaluation, so are we, just to clarify, are we saying that we're not bringing the evaluation back on the 3rd, that we're just going to focus on the superintendent's training in the morning and then the policy review, and then we need to come back at a different date when we bring the proposal back for the board evaluation, when the actual report and everything is reviewed? Did I get that right?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be I think being realistic, we don't want to try to short shrift and review those policies like in an hour or two. I don't think that's realistic. And so that would be my suggestion, is that we just plan on that.
And that we also have some flexibility on whether we do the policy first and then the training later, depending on the superintendent's schedule. But
yes,
sometimes it's easier to coordinate 1 versus 11 schedules. So
that's exactly right. And I'm totally going to be flexible with that as well, President.
Okay.
If the superintendent's not quite ready to provide that training, or we'll push it forward to one of the other days that I'm going to be out to do the other services with you.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Caruso, help me here. On 2.01, is there any motion, is there any action that we need to take?
So, Madam President, if I may, so I think one of the things that I'm questioning in my mind is that to train the staff in policies, if the policies aren't finalized, I don't know if that would be, and I guess I'm looking at my boss to say, is that, because really when we did this in 2017, I think we had about 130 people. So it was all cabinet, directors, assistant superintendents. I think it was director 1 and above is what we did. But they had actual hard copies of the policies. So this is what the board's doing. This is what you need to follow. This is what the superintendent's following. So I don't know. I think we may have to consider separating that out, because I don't know if we want to train them in, this is what we're working on, but this isn't what's finalized yet.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there on the record, that there might be something, again, that's where that flexibility with the timeline is going to really come in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. And the way that I'm taking it is on October 3rd, if we do the suggested date, we would come back together to review what Dr. Alsbury is going to present. But in addition, that training for the superintendent, that is just for her, right?
That's right.
Not for, okay. She would have to decide who she would want to include to get the policy revisions that will be coming from us. That's her, we can work together on deciding who that would be, right, Mr. Caruso? Okay.
Yeah, so that would be a follow-up. So there's the SUPS training as part of the proposal, because
Yeah.
it's tied to the superintendent's contract. You have to train the superintendent in order to say this is what we're following. And then part 2, the staff training would come when all the policies are brought back and adopted and finalized, and then here's what we're actually following as a board.
So I'm going to ask you again, is there anything on 2.01 that you need action from the board?
I'm going to look to our board counsel, Ms. Turfley. I believe, Mr. Parker, when we spoke on the phone, the intent was, again, to make sure that if anything, timeline, but I know that the timeline on the proposals, based on the conversation you have with Trustee Bustamante Adams, that has to come back as a separate conversation. So his suggestion to me was that if we list this as discussion of possible action, the board can always choose not to take any action if there's no action to be taken. So I'm not sure at this point if they need to take anything.
Sorry. Legal counsel Mahogany Turfley. So it was my understanding that it was going to be on a separate agenda item to approve the timeline. If you had a separate conversation with Mr. Parker and then you moved it to an action item, is that what you're saying? And it wasn't before, so you could do it now as opposed to later?
So the intent was if the board were to say yes, we wanted to vote on the timeline as is, but I think that based on the policy and handbook review, that piece, I think is my understanding consensus, we have agreement on to move forward on that part, but it's the evaluation piece that's going to change where we don't have a date yet set for that. So I don't know if they need to take action on that now or wait until we bring this, because ideally the proposal is going to have to come back with that flexible piece that you suggested. So I'm looking at you thinking that I think we're thinking the same thing, so.
Yeah, so I think that I took away from that, then we're not going, we don't need any action on 2.01. Yeah, okay. All right, then we are going to go ahead and move to 2.02. Before I open it up, is there anyone who did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? Seeing none, then that is closed. We'll move forward. Dr. Osbury, can you begin with 2.02?
Yeah, so is this about the proposal?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we've really kind of been having the conversation about the proposal. It really has to do with the dates, the months that things land. It has to do with the flexibility. And thanks to Joe for pointing out that we'll probably we would want, and I would agree with you, we'd want to move that leadership, the superintendent leadership team training to after when the policies are approved. So that'd be sometime next year, 2026. I just want to be flexible and to serve the board in the ways that make sense and that works. So what I'm recommending in terms of there's nothing really substantive that's being changed. The services themselves are the same. If there's differences, I've already mentioned that the differences are where I said I'll be there and do a 1 hour thing or 1 to 2 hour thing or whatever I've said. I'm there anyway. You're paying me to come there in person. I'm happy to prepare one of the other services and do that the same day if we have the time to do that. So just know that I'm flexible that way in terms of moving these services around to kind of be the most efficient that we can be. So I think that's pretty much it. There's also a couple of things that I need to know as far as, again, back to dates. I'm recommending, and this is based on very good suggestions by Mr. Caruso and as well, and the officers, president and officers, that we do that I join you on a virtual meeting in your virtual September work session, that I use some of the time in that work session. It wouldn't be a long time. It'd be 1 to 2 hours. Hopefully more like 1, to explain the superintendent evaluation process. The super evaluation process, to get started on it, we really want to try to do the first stages of that superintendent process sometime in November. And so I'm recommending that I join you in that September session and so that I can explain the superintendent evaluation process to both the board and the superintendent, give you an opportunity to ask, of course, ask any questions that you have about that. The process, let me say, that we're following in that is part of your current policy. So we're not changing anything that's not already included in your current policy for superintendent evaluation. Then the suggestion is that I could come then live in person. And this again has already been put into the budget for this contract, that I come in November and do a long session, 4 to 6 hour session, where we basically begin the superintendent evaluation process, which has several steps to it that we want to do in a preliminary, session. So those are the two dates, additional dates, other than the October 3rd one that I've mentioned, that I would be out for. The other suggestion, as Mr. Crusoe pointed out earlier, is that when I join you, if this is approved by the board in the September meeting to explain the SUP evaluation process, that would be an opportunity also for any motion to be made to allow for us to have flexibility in the proposal delivery dates, so that we don't have to continually come back and have official votes by the full board every time we have to make a slight adjustment to those dates. We could potentially do that. We could do that. It would be best to do it on September at that virtual meeting if the board is open to that.
Thank you. Any questions from the trustees? And Vice President Zamora, we'll start with you.
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from trustees? Okay, Mr. Caruso, do you want to add anything?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Joe Caruso for the record. So I appreciate Dr. Osbury sharing his flexibility. I think one thing we've learned, or we're learning as we're building and flying a plane, I think that it helps us to step back and say that we're working with a brand new board. And that's the biggest piece. So to have a second step come back where the policies are given more time, I think is crucial. So I appreciate that opportunity. I think it's really important for the board to see. We did spend an awful lot of time in 2016 working on it. And then the second component of instead of starting the time process for the evaluation, we have a brand new superintendent. And that's part of the working relationship with the board. We want to give that time for you to work together, have a high level overview of this is what the process is versus, okay, we're going to jump right in. So I think it helps to have that extra time. I appreciate the board giving us that flexibility for September. And I think knowing that we're working on revising policies, a board evaluation, starting a superintendent evaluation, not to mention this whole other job you have of running a school district. I mean, there's a lot happening. So to give us where we can kind of break it out a little bit more, I think helps.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the superintendent to chime in as well, because we would, based on the conversation, we would start the superintendent evaluation process on our September work session. We would get the high-level 1 hour overview from Dr. Osbury about that process. And so, Superintendent Ebert, do you have any questions for us or comments?
Thank you, Madam President. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that the trustees have put into all of this. And as you described, the September timeframe, a high-level overview would be wonderful. I also plan on providing you the 100-day, document and achievement, since that will be day 99. But yes, what I see in the revised reference for 2.02, not only the conversation in regard to the September timeframe, but looking out into the future and even out into 2026, setting that up properly for all of us on mutually agreed upon goals, I think is wonderful.
Thank you. And I know that as learning this process, I didn't realize how much time it takes to plan things out in order to be prepared. And so it is a very complex process, but like Trustee Cavazos said, it is that preparation, the policies that we really want to address, and then this will be my first time, and even though it's my third year, to do an actual superintendent evaluation process, which seems really absurd, but there was just a lot of disruption previously, and so this will be my first time, and I'm looking forward to working together in tandem with the superintendent to be able to do that. So, Mr. Caruso, is there action that you would need from us on 2.02?
So, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, so looking to my colleague, Ms. Turfley, I believe the proposal, as Dr. Alsbury said, since he'll be back on September, I'll work with Ms. Turfley to get the verbiage exactly to allow the board to have an agenda item that gives flexibility so that every time something changes, we don't bring it back to the board, we have that. So I believe we do not take action tonight. We'll bring it back on the September. She's smiling. Okay, yes.
Yes, nodding her head. So we are not taking any action then on 2.02. That's what I'm saying. Okay, Dr. Alsbury, I think that ends it. Thank you for your flexibility as we delayed and taking items out of order. Any last comments as we close out and move on?
Just thank you again. Even though I can't see you, I look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, then, we're going to go ahead and move to item 2.05. Superintendent, do you want to tee us up for that?
Thank you, Madam President. As the team comes forward for the presentation, I'd like to thank the board, specifically Trustee Johnson, for continuing to work with us as we make sure that we have all of our families engaged. You as a board have wanted that, and we've worked collaboratively with many of you to bring forward tonight's proposal.
Thank you. And Ms. Sear, let me see if there's anybody that would like to complete a public speaker card before I start. Ken, you don't want to rush up? No? Okay. I want to make sure. So with that, I'll go ahead and close public comment, and if you could please proceed.
All right. Good evening. First time back doing this. President Bustamante Adams, members of the Board of Trustees, Superintendent Ebert, and members of the public. My name is Kirsten Sear. I'm the Chief Community Engagement Officer, and I am thrilled to join you tonight to talk about a few items that we're working on to increase family engagement and community engagement with our school district. I'm here with Dr. Brad Keating, who's Assistant Superintendent of Government Relations and Community Partnerships, who will also be joining me in the presentation. So thank you for this opportunity. This is one way that we're energizing the start of the 2025-26 school year through targeted events, community part, oh, wait, this is the wrong one, I'm sorry. I just realized we're on engagement. Sorry. This is a way that we are sharing our strategy for building stronger, more consistent connections between our board members and the communities that they represent. We're really excited to relaunch trustee community engagement meetings this fall as a proactive effort to strengthen community trust, provide transparent communication, and gather authentic input from families and stakeholders. These meetings are an important step toward deepening our partnership with the community and reaffirming our commitment to two-way communication. Oh, it's right here. This is we're about to see a high-level look at the scope of work and implementation plan. Our goals are to ensure that meetings are strategically scheduled, accessible to families across regions, and inclusive of all community voices. The format will be consistent but flexible, allowing trustees to tailor meetings to their community's needs while keeping core engagement goals at the center. Each trustee will hold 2 meetings during the 2025-26 school year. Currently, we have that as one in-person and one virtual, hosted via Google Meet. That's up for discussion tonight. In-person locations were selected to reflect a balance across regions 1, 2, and 3, ensuring equitable access. Trustees will have the option to host solo or co-host with fellow board members depending on scheduling needs. This provides a flexible but structured framework that maximizes participation. I will turn it over to Dr. Keating.
Thank you, Ms. Sear. Just the last few slides we will go through, but it's part of your packet as well. These slides show the draft meeting schedule by trustee district. Each entry across outlines the proposed dates or the proposed month, the format, the location. We're currently working with school leaders and trustee, your offices. We will work with them to confirm sites and times and share final logistics with communications teams for promotion in advance of the event once this item is approved by you all. So as you go through, you will see across the month, whether the format is in person or virtual, the location, the district, and then the trustee will be responsible. So there are 3 slides here. You have it in your document as well to see straight through. With that, we are happy to answer any questions that you all may have. I just want to stress again to Superintendent Ebert's point, we are making a very strong emphasis moving forward. We had our family engagement team back today for day 1 and strategizing how we're going to engage our families every single day. This is one huge tool in our toolbox to be able to engage our families correctly so that they could work with their electeds directly. They can provide an outlet to work with you, to hear you, to provide their input. And we're excited for this meaningful engagement moving forward for the next year. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson, do you want to add anything before we take questions?
Yeah, actually, I didn't have a question at all, but I wanted to take 1 minute to be able to share some gratitude for the district team for letting us know what true partnership looks like, right? To be able to take an idea, to be able to put some steps behind it and help bring it to life, and really be able to get the vision of 11 people onto a piece of paper and then use that to be able to help bring community voice in. So, Ms. Sarah, I know you came in late, Kristen, but like you really drove the process, and Brad and then Roseanne was in the back. Just everybody's effort to be able to take what we thought was important to put it here was really strong work. So thank you for your effort.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson, who was in your working group?
It was Trustee Dominguez, Trustee Esparza-Straffigan, and then also Vice President Zamora.
Thank you so much for each and every one of you for volunteering. So any questions for our presenters? Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think this is probably not really a question for the presenters. It might be more for like the discussion among the colleagues. But we were just talking about flexibility on the last item. So would you prefer that if we have questions having to do with the type of meeting, having to do with virtual or in person, that we save that for a discussion?
It's up to you. You could ask it now. Is there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we have flexibility on our preference for virtual or in person? Because I believe the last time we left off, Trustee Johnson had given us a good report, and along with the committee, as far as, you know, and how we were going to put this together. And I do appreciate that that we did not take District A away from Trustee Stevens. I know that was just a little typo, but it was listed as that Cavazos had District A, and I thought, oh, wow, all these years I thought I had G, but anyway, just a little typo. So anyway, I personally would just like to express that I know we have, and I appreciate you moving me from March of 26 to September of 2025, but my constituency has over and over expressed a desire to have in-person meetings. So if we are able to do that and express a choice, I would prefer to have mine in person.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, thank you, Madam President. I wanted to thank Trustee Johnson for leading the way on this. So I really appreciate that. And I did have I guess I am merging 2 questions here. So if, like the virtual portion of it, if we wanted to do an in-person but have it televised, could that be an option?
Hybrid?
Yeah, a hybrid. Okay, a hybrid. That's yeah. I mean, I know we have the capabilities, but is that something feasible?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, these are really your meetings. We suggested the virtual option because we wanted this to be accessible to all families. We know some people aren't able to travel, some people have different, we're hoping that we have these meetings at different days, different times of the day, so that there's something available for everyone. But I believe we can do the hybrid option. I will double check for us.
Oh, that sounds
to
great.
be certain.
And then my second question was about costs. What additional costs are we looking at as far as the personnel or maybe even facility use? Have we looked at those numbers?
Madam President, members of the board, Trustee Dominguez, we right now are planning to absorb this within our current structure. To be totally candid, part of the discussion about the virtual meeting is we felt that that would provide slightly less of a staff lift, to be candid.
So a hybrid could cost more. Okay.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I think that the direction from the board and the superintendent is to work with you to design meetings that will meet your needs in order to meet the community's needs, right? Like we want to again, the whole vision of this is to provide options to best meet our community's needs. So we are more than happy to work with you on that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Biasotti, and Ms. Seard, feel free to go directly to the member. That's one thing that we've changed. Instead of saying, it saves us like 20 minutes.
I'm catching up. Thank you.
Okay. So, Trustee Biasotti.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the great work that you put together. But I believe the effort to host all the meetings in person would be more of a favorable approach to promote engagement across the district. So I just wanted to add that I would be in favor of that approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Barron.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I just want to tell you, it's a fantastic idea. Kind of like to piggyback or to add to the question of Trustee Dominguez, do we have capacity to work with any of the Latino social media influencers? The reason why I ask, because in the Latino community, it just so happens that many of these influencers, they have a much wider reach into the community than, say, the mainstream media. I'm not trying to downplay mainstream media. Of course, I like, I appreciate real journalistic expertise. But a few years ago, when I was doing updates there on La Pulga, we were reaching 30, 35, 40,000 people at a time over an hour. Sometimes people would log in for like 10 or 15 minutes, some for the whole thing, some for like 5 minutes, right, or less, right? But they were able to track it. But there are several, you know, there are several outlets, the Mitotero, La Pulga, and I'm sure that if we were to invite them to come in and simulcast it, they might be able to come in and maybe even do a two-way kind of interface where people would be, you know, on their phones and actually possibly even sending in questions, you know, that they might be interested. And of course, I don't even for a second think that we field all the questions, right? But maybe filter and add ones that we can, and maybe the rest, you know, hold over for general information. But I know it's something that again maybe we haven't done, but hey, it's a new reality. More people are turning in to news by these folks. They're sending me things, you know, when there's like a crash of a fire truck got into an accident, and I found out through the social media influencers than before my staff, you know, and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping we have a capacity, or if we haven't already like begun to make a relationship with them, right? I'm kind of hoping we can begin to reach out to them, because again, they are a reality.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to respond. Was that a question? Well, if we have the capacity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Believe it or not, there was a question. We went into it, right?
Sorry, I got lost there. But
Trustee Barone, Kirsten Sear for the record, I couldn't agree with you more. We know that people are finding their information in new and different ways, and that's part of our jobs, I think, is to find out how we better reach people. Dr. Welsh is doing La Fiesta on Saturday morning.
Yep. There you
So
go.
that is something we're definitely looking into. I'd love to meet with you and talk more about that.
Fantastic. There we go. You see, I don't just, go off. Every once in a while, I do have a question.
Okay, Trustee Cavazos.
That was his fault. I was still laughing. Okay, so some great suggestions. I love Trustee Dominguez's idea. I was so focused on virtual, in person, and looking at the two ends of the continuum. It just didn't hybrid, and I think that is a fantastic idea. One other thing that I wanted to bring up is, besides thanks to our trustee committee and also to your presentation here, I really like the ideas that you have listed here as far as on the outreach, which is what all of this is about. But on, let's see, page 2 of 4, where it says the community engagement unit with communications and media relations, that we are going to share through Parent Link, CCSD website, school networks, and social media. When we get down to the third point there about the SOTs, the student councils, how are we going to do that through like the school site administrators, or how exactly are we going to do that? Because I get a lot of questions about some schools, their SOTs are very, very engaged and involved, and others not so much.
Thank you, Trustee Brad Keating, for the record. As it relates to the school-based group, it's really working with what we found successful in previous trustee community meetings 10 years ago, as they were being done, is really working directly with that school principal, infusing it, putting it out in parent link messages, asking the student councils to be involved, asking those groups to push the messaging out to their community. And it was incredibly successful in the past. We see it now again. Also engaging our superintendent student advisory council and that group, asking them to push these messages out and having them part of these meetings as well. I think that'll go far.
Thank you so much. And a kind of a follow-up on that, will any of our community groups, our partners, we are going to be having them help with this in any way?
Yeah, Trustee Cavazos, Kirsten Sear for the record. Brad and I have committed to engaging our community partners in most all that we do now.
Okay.
Starting yesterday when many of them attended
Yes,
the administrative kickoff. That is the new tone
That was
we
a
are.
great graphic up there that showed all of our partners up there. Very last thing, if we are able to go ahead and do the hybrid meetings, or when we're able to do those, and I'm perfectly happy with the location, Chaparral High School, that was chosen for me for 2026, but can the trustees that are choosing to do the in-person or hybrid have some input on where the locations will be with the staff help? Because I know what we're looking at is kind of like the distribution, the population, and what would best meet the needs of our community. Can we have some input on that?
Kirsten Sear for the record, absolutely. Again, this is a starting point, I believe, but we want to meet your needs, so we're happy to accommodate.
Thank you so much for all your hard work and also with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
So again, I know it's been a lift, it's been a moment, and you're hitting the ground running, coming in after some decisions were made. My question is, looking at the calendar, so I like the hybrid concept, but it would be really ideal because we're re-engaging with the community. It has not happened for, I don't even know when the last time a trustee had a community meeting, unless they were done independently, honestly, to say that to be true. So my question is, I'll just use myself as an example, as an individual. My first meeting is in January, so, and then my second meeting is in May. I think that we could try to accommodate maybe all of us at some point to try to squeeze in a meeting in the first semester somehow, because we have not, and I think that's important for us. And then the second thing I was thinking is that I know we had robust conversation about potential topics in the future that we would choose, but I think that first meeting, I would love to say for myself as an individual, I just want to listen. I just want to catch what people are going to say because it's the first one. I'm not saying anyone else has to do it that way, but that's something I think, what's going to be our note catcher? And then I do have a third question after. Has there been consideration about that?
About everyone having a meeting in the first semester? Okay, Kirsten Sear for the record. You know, part of the problem, we're happy to look into that. Part of the problem is we weren't planning on having meetings in December because it's generally a hard time to attract people. But we could certainly take a look at that. I hear you. I hear that it's hard to say you're not going to have one until January. So we'll take a look at that. We can try to adjust this schedule.
Then the no catcher.
Kirsten's here for the record. So we have had some conversations with our friends at the board office about asking for some support. I think it's really critical that we do have note catchers at each of these meetings. It's written into this plan. Part of community responsiveness is that we follow up on questions and suggestions, and so we will work closely with the board office to ensure that we can do that.
Thank you. And then I think the last thing I wanted to just, not that, I just think it's important, the messaging, consider this. Some of our colleagues mentioned the SOT getting information. You mentioned the student council or the advisory, superintendent's advisory. So I know, for example, it's interesting because there's 3 of us, Trustee Stevens, Trustee Cavazos, and myself. Some of our schools kind of overlap. I would be amicable to partner with some of the other trustees if that's possible, and it might lessen the burden of adding meetings to the staff. But that's just me speaking as an individual. I'm happy to do that. That's going to be a different conversation. The other thing would be, because of that uniqueness of schools overlapping, I'd be willing to work with whoever's the point of contact to kind of say, like, maybe we can look at the feeder alignment and the messaging can go directly, specifically on those schools' websites, see? So then it goes out to all of that specific community that trustee serves, so that all of the schools know, hey, you can go to Basic High School, or you can go to Chaparral, or, you know, you can go to Treem Elementary. So that way the community as a whole knows ahead of time, and it's not just one school's burden.
Great idea.
Thank you for that. Trustee Stevens.
So I just wanted to say that looking at this, I can tell it's a lot of work, both on the trustees who put this together and then you guys taking it and making it what it is. So thank you for that. I'm really excited about these. I would like to add that while I also think that being in person is the most personal way for us to engage with our constituents, I also feel like since we haven't done this in a long time, probably, I don't know, pre-COVID maybe, who knows. But that being said, I think it would be good to have some data to support how many people actually do get online. So I think if we are going to have an additional meeting, to piggyback on Trustee Esparza, Strofagan, I always struggle with your name. Anyway, if we were to do that, then we had 3 in a particular region or district, maybe you have 2 in person and 1 online, and we commit to an online one to see, and maybe that's the one you do in December where nobody has to like really leave their house. I don't know, but you take a look at that and see, are more people engaged online? Or not. And if they're not, then great, we have a good direction to go to, but we're not going to know if we don't try. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I don't want to completely like cancel the idea of a Google Meet or something like that. I do think that every district should give it a try, because different districts might have different needs too. You're going to have maybe more constituents in this particular district are more privy to being online, who knows? Just a thought.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Thank you, Madam President. I think Trustee Stevens has a great point. I would like to see maybe both, do the in-person and virtual and see what yields better results, and then move on from there. The other thing too, to go back to what Trustee Barone mentioned about reaching out to different outlets of Spanish radio stations, we should also, if we're going to do that, consider the Filipino community, the Asian community, and just to make sure we're being equitable in that sense, and we engage everyone. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, me and Trustee Stevens share the same brain in that the beta testing is actually really important to figuring out what data, but to do that, we're going to have to be consistent. So we wouldn't be able to have, like, some places do virtual and some places not, because then we wouldn't really know what works or what doesn't. So I I appreciate having the schedule that we do where we're, one does virtual, one does in person, because then we can take a year to collect data and then compare over what does work and what doesn't. So whatever we decide to do, I think we should keep a couple of options, but just it has to be consistent so we can look at all apples to apples.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. In answer, kind of response to Trustee Esparza-Stoffergan, yeah, I would be happy with, in September, partnering with you, because both of mine are listed, I'm solo, and I'm thinking, we can easily, because I have a kind of a big portion of Henderson there that is in your district. And also, I had talked with Trustee Vice President Zamora previously when she was working on the committee, and even El Dorado High School, where she's already with Trustee Satori, but then mine, East Las Vegas, also overlaps with El Dorado High School. So, I think that we can really be flexible here, just like we were talking about on our last item, with being able to partner up so that we don't have trustees that are left out until 2026. And I think the hybrid option it's kind of like the best of both worlds, kind of like a compromise that we can have, both and still collect the data and see what the results are. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have Superintendent Ebert, and then I'm going to ask Vice President some more if she has any questions.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I really appreciate all of the discussion, and we all want to be engaged with our entire community, our families, our parents, those that have children and those that don't have children within our school district, right? So that they have an understanding of the work that's happening. What I do want to take a moment is to remind everybody that we're going to be working on the strategic plan this fall. So there will be other community meetings on top of these. And you will be heavily involved in those meetings too. So that is not reflected in these meetings here. And although my staff has sat there and said, we want to be accommodating to everything, it is my job to make sure we can deliver on all of our promises with the resources that we have. So I just want to add that to remind everybody that we will be having several meetings this fall and winter to develop the strategic plan for the entire district.
Awesome. Thank you. Vice President Zamora, do you have any comments or questions?
I have all. I've been taking notes. Everyone brought up really good points. So I really want to start with looking at this timeline. Team, thank you for putting it together. I know nothing has been set in stone, but what I'm gathering is more of trustees would like to kind of say yes to the date that has been assigned to us, the month, not the date, the month assigned to us. I know on the graph it shows the trustees. I would want to say that they can possibly be the owners of that meeting, and then if trustees would like to join, that would be a conversation to be had, because I do see in the part 2 of the chart, Trustee Johnson, or part 3, I'm sorry, Trustee Johnson has LBA, and it's just himself as a trustee. It's the district municipalities, Las Vegas. That's part of my district as well, and I would love to participate in that. So I'm wondering if we can say, and maybe see if we all agree, that the month is set with the trustees, and if people want to participate in that meeting, they would have that conversation and agree from there. And then the trustee, that's kind of like the owner of that meeting will then be able to decide if they want hybrid, in person, or virtual. If we decide to go that route, how much time in advance does the team on the communication side need to be able to do the advertising for that? Like, do you need a 4-week notice of what the month will look like? What is just a timeline?
Trustee Brad Keating for the record. Ideally, we will start promoting these events 2 weeks in advance. So I think if we can shoot for 1 month out, that would allow us to make sure all the correct CCSD personnel have it on their calendar, and then we're able to promote it for that full 2 weeks at a minimum.
So with the first meeting starting in September, because we've been having this conversation, we're in August, and I know we're gonna have to hit the ground running with these meetings. So by this time, Trustee Dominguez should know, be in agreement that she wants an in-person for September. Trustees should be already reaching out if they want to participate, and it's up to Trustee Dominguez if it's a yes or no. And then Trustee Cavazos would also have to let you know if she wants to do the Google Meet or in person in her district by this time. Yes?
Sorry, yes, they're nodding their head.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's hard. I can't see anyone, and I'm
I
sorry.
know.
Because I want to just make sure we have the details in place already, so we can move forward with this and be ready, but also understanding all the sounds concerns that we might have. And I understand the collecting data, and I think it is important. I know, there's some folks that are easier to just do a Google Meet and tune in. They're probably leaving work. We don't know what their situation is. So I agree with Trustee Johnson, and I think that's why it's important for us to be ownerships of any meetings. I understand hearing partnering up with the radio station, but I think the district needs to have full ownership of this, inviting people to participate, but having the ownership so we're able to collect that data and really compare everything out. So
Was that a question or a comment?
I think that was the comment, but my
Okay.
question was going back to would it, I don't know how to put it, where we can agree that the month belongs to the trustee on the chart, and then the trustees will be ownerships of how they decide to have the meeting moving forward.
I think there's an agreement because I see Ned's heads nodding. So yes, the trustee that's listed has ownership, and it's if other trustees want to join with that individual, then it's upon us to let the team know, the ones that are organizing it. So there's an agreement with what you just said.
Thank you. That was it.
Okay. And then I think our last comment, Trustee Dominguez.
I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Thank you, Madam President. Are we on track to do a meeting in September? Are we still good to go even just for September?
For sincere, for the record, we probably need to call you tomorrow to start working on that. But as Dr. Keating said, we're figuring we need about 2 good weeks to promote these meetings and give the schools time to promote them. So I think we can pull it off. It's obviously our preference to have a little bit more lead time in the future, but
very optimistic and hopeful we can do this. And then my second question is more towards our president, is if we're going to have about 3 months worth of data, could we maybe recalibrate in December, maybe a work session, and just kind of any adjustments needed or issues seen?
Great suggestion. I would agree. And yes, and I appreciate you saying that because like Trustee Esparza-Straffagan or somebody mentioned, it's been like 10 years since we've done this as a team, and this is a new team. But we definitely know that we want community engagement. And so let's not let trying to be perfect stand in the way. And so coming back and figuring out what worked and what didn't work. So we will do that. Great suggestion. I will be mindful of that so we can bring it back. So there's no action to be taken. Thank you for the labor of love. Thank you for the working group. I appreciate it. With that, we're going to move to 2.06. And I think this is you as well, right? Okay, so please proceed.
okay. Good evening again. President Bustamante Adams, members of the Board of Trustees, Superintendent Ebert, and members of the public. Now we are going to present how the Clark County School District is energizing the start of the 2025-26 school year. School starts on Monday, August 11th. We're very excited. We're going to present to you some targeted events, community partnerships, and media engagement that we have been participating in. So we're looking at 3 different categories. The first is community engagement and family support. The second is leadership and media engagement. And the third is school openings and first day highlights. And woven throughout all of these activities, we are talking about Superintendent Ebert's 100-day plan. which is focused on trust, communication, and re-energizing partnerships. I hope all of you have had a chance to stop by one of our back-to-school fairs. If you haven't yet, I would encourage you to go to our last one on Saturday at the Meadows Mall. They are really fun. This is a partnership with Cox Communications. We've now hosted 4 across the valley, serving thousands of families. These events provided essential school supplies, immunizations, and community resource access. They are buzzing. There's a lot of people there. It's been really fun. We also, on July 22nd, held our annual media rodeo. And this is when we have representatives from all of our different units and departments that are public facing, giving updates to members of the media. We secured quite a bit of positive media out of this event, and it was a really nice way to set the tone for the transparency that we want to have with the media throughout the school year. So I mentioned that Dr. Welsh will be doing some Spanish-speaking media on Saturday. Obviously, we want to emphasize to our families that we have a commitment to every student, regardless of their immigration status. And so we have provided multilingual videos to our Spanish-speaking media and to many of our community partners who work with different communities that serve immigrants to reaffirm that every child, regardless of their immigration status, is welcome and encouraged to register with the Clark County School District. This was also a very good time always. On July 31st, we had over 1,000 new educators who joined us for a morning of professional development and inspiration. And this event coincided with a press conference that we held to talk about our teacher recruitment and retention efforts and progress that we've made in filling our key instructional roles. We are in better shape this year than we have been going into a school year in quite some time, and closer than ever to our ultimate goal of filling every classroom with a qualified, caring teacher. I will now turn our time over to Dr. Keating to tell you more about what we're doing to prepare and energize for the new school year.
Thank you, Ms. Sear. Brad Keating for the record. An event we just had just a few days ago, thanks to our continued partnership with the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation. We hosted a drive-through supply drive at City National Arena, their practice facility. The outreach was an amazing day. We were lucky to have Superintendent Ebert stop by and give out some backpacks. We gave out over 2,000 backpacks to Title I students that day. So we have an incredible partnership with the Knights and thank them every year for doing that. We also had yesterday, we were able to see many of your smiling faces bright and early at the Smith Center at 8 a.m. for the administrator back to school kickoff. It was an amazing day where Superintendent Ebert addressed over 1,500 of our administrators and talked about the vision and where the district is moving forward. So it was a great day, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. We've got a number of school ribbon cuttings, and I saw a number of you this morning already, and we've got a few more moving forward. But we're proud to celebrate 9 new or modernized school campuses this year. So these ribbon cuttings truly symbolize our continued investment in 21st century learning environments and offer some amazing pride in the community. If you've been to a ribbon cutting or a groundbreaking, you've seen how excited the community is to participate in these. We are very excited to begin school on August 11th. Marks a celebration of readiness and renewal for our students, from the Arville Bus Yard to campus visits with Firewall the Dragon, our new cybersecurity mascot that you have to see. The day will reflect our commitment to academic excellence, student safety, and strong starts. So it will be a busy day, and we look forward to spending the day with many of you as Superintendent Ebert hops all over the valley to see bright, smiling students' faces. I'm going to pass it back to Ms. Sear to talk about the Everyday Matters and Bright Future Walks at the end of the month.
So this is a new initiative that we are excited to bring back and improve, which is a community walk to re-engage some students that were enrolled last year but have not enrolled this year, and to knock on their doors and talk to them and their families and ask them to come back and talk to them about the resources we'd love to provide to them if and when they do come back to school. And so we're looking at changing this up a little bit this year. We got some feedback from our schools that they thought it might be more effective to do it after school, both to recruit our employees to participate and also to ensure that more families are available for us to engage with them. And so we're going to give that a shot this year. Usually this has been done on Saturdays, but we're going to try this out and see if this is more effective, a more effective way of reaching our students and our families. And so we're looking at the afternoon of August 26th for Region 1, August 27th for Region 2, and August 28th for Region 3. And so volunteers will be paired with CCSD employees, given a list of addresses to go knock on doors. We will pre-call those families so that they know that we're coming. We will be wearing bright t-shirts that clearly identify us as with CCSD, but it shouldn't be a surprise that we're knocking on their door because we're going to reach out to them beforehand through our school communities. And we're just going to wrap them in love and tell them we want them to come back and what can we do to get them to re-enroll in school. Thank you for your continued support, and I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Ebert for any closing remarks.
It is going to be the first day of school in just a few days. As we all know, August 11th. I cannot thank this team enough for what they have done. Our two deputies, Deputy Gonzalez and Deputy Welsh, have been out and about in all of our schools. They've been meeting with principals, they've been meeting with teachers, along with our amazing team, which I know you've lifted up, our Chief of Human Resources, Mrs. Triana, who's done a phenomenal job. We have the fewest vacancies that we've had in many, many years to start. That doesn't mean our job is done. It'd be wonderful if we had every single position filled, but we are well on our way to having that completed. And then the gentleman hiding behind her, Chief Casey, has been across the entire district, also working with our transportation, making sure that food service is up and running, all of the pieces. You know, we had air quality issues earlier this week. He provides to make sure that that information gets out. They'll be running the emergency center, right, when school opens, just so that we're all ready. We've been coordinating with Metro as well and our other partners. And so I feel we're really ready. I've asked Brandon, our Chief of Facilities, to promise me that 100% of the air conditioning will be running the first day of school. He said we have shared goals and values. He did not promise me that, but we are well on our way because of your approval of the $5 million earlier this year to hit those 37 schools. So I feel confident, and we will be working through the weekend, that this is going to be our best year, 25-26 school year.
Thank you. Vice President Zamora, we're going to start with you. Do you have any questions?
No questions, just a comment. Thank you, team, for listening, especially with the identification and knocking on doors, just in the climate that we're in, I think in some of the communities. So I'm excited to see these bright color shirts. And I just want to give a shout out to the Dragon who was at the admin kickoff. I'm excited to see who is doing all the dancing behind there because they had all the energy. So I'm excited to just see the first day and how it goes. So thank you, team.
Thank you. Trustee Stevens?
I know we get a lot of reports. They're not actionable items. We just get reports so that we're well informed. I don't know that we've ever gotten one quite like this before, where it's about specifically on community engagement. Maybe we have and I've missed it, but I just thought this was great. I hope it's more to come, because this is exciting. I do have a quick question, though. On the first day of, not the first day of school, I'm on the wrong slide, the community walk. I don't know if this is feasible, but I'm wondering, let's say you knock on a door and you have a parent that's there and they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we just haven't gotten around to it. Will you have anything on hand to help them register then and there?
Thank you, Trustee Brad Keating, for the record. Thank you for the question.
So we will have all the resources in a folder. We'll have some school supplies with us as well to give to the kiddos. But most importantly, we will have iPads, devices, all of that fun stuff so that we could register them on the spot and get them moving so that they have a plan. Our goal in working with the principals of each of these sites is that the volunteers and all the staff that go out are prepared for when a student says, yes, they're ready, that we have a plan for the next day for the student to arrive at a certain time, meet the principal at the front, and receive a red carpet treatment when they walk in the door. So we're excited.
Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you. No questions. I don't think that family engagement hears this enough, but they are so amazing. From the administrative kickoff yesterday, all of our graduations in May, the summer graduation yesterday, the back-to-school fairs. It's just, they're behind the scenes. They have the staff. They're there working. And no matter what, going all the way from Trustee Esparza, Stoffergan, and I during May, getting locked into a gated area at the Orleans. We still got help on that. I know you guys didn't know about that. To the amazing kickoff yesterday where I just want to make sure that our superintendent, you don't have a side gig at the Sphere now, do you? That was such a great part of the kickoff yesterday, the summer graduation. I mean, you guys just don't hear it enough. And our deputy superintendents, I know you guys have clones and you've got to share that with us. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm pretty sure that the entire board shares that sentiment. Thank you for everything that you do.
We appreciate that. Trustee Satori.
Oh, if I can just piggyback on that, Kirsten Sear for the record, I just thank you for saying that. And I want to recognize Kelsey Rodman from our engagement and events unit, and her team have put a lot of this together. Melinda Malone from our communications team put a lot of this together. Roseanne Richards in the back knows everything that's going on and is supporting us all. Anybody else and obviously our family engagement, Denise Diaz. There's so many people I just want to thank. Folks have been working around the clock and having wonderful attitudes about it because we all love serving and engaging with our community. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I definitely echo those sentiments as well. The events have been fantastic. The communication in the community has been excellent as well. You can just tell the buzz, and then a lot of the reports in the media and everything. There's just a lot of positivity, and I think it is because we're communicating very clearly and getting a lot of information out there. My question was: is that media rodeo, is that new this year, or has that existed in the past?
Kirsten Sear for the record. No, actually that has happened the last few years. Okay. And it was set up because we got so many requests from media in the weeks before school started that we wanted to provide a one-stop shop for them that was easier for them and easier for our staff. And it's worked out really well for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.
Trustee Esparza Strophagan.
Well, I don't want to be repetitive, but I want to highlight and thank not just the team, because that people don't understand the undertaking of one happening, and there have been like multiple places at the same time. But I do want to acknowledge our superintendent, because what I really appreciate is there's been a lot of asks of her in a short period of time. And one of those asks, I will say as an individual, and I think collectively, we have asked is for more student voice. And what I would say is I appreciated that there was a first time ever summer institute for students for 2 days. And many of us participated in that, and being able to engage and really hear what the students were saying. And I look forward to more of that, and yesterday's kickoff as well. And so I'm leading into not a question, but a thought. So you're doing Bright Futures Walk. You're taking adults. Would you consider student ambassadors? And I don't mean, I'm not talking about confidentiality or breaking things, but is there a way, I think the best person to sell our schools are our students. So I don't know if that's something to consider in some capacity. I'm not saying it has to be this time, maybe next year.
Kirsten Sear for the record, we can certainly look into the possibility of that. I just wanted to echo what you said. Superintendent Ebert has been reminding us all along the way to include students. For example, we were just working on a video encouraging students to attend school regularly, and I gave her the script, and she didn't even read it. She handed it back and said, run it by some kids first, and we completely changed it. And so, because they did not like it. But I can tell you that as we have, I mean, we talk all the time, obviously, about how we're going to engage the community, and she is consistently asking us to include student voice, but we will look into your idea.
Thank you. Trustee Barron?
Yes, thank you very much. I think I'm hoping like for the future, we can build more enlaces, more partnerships there, more of an integrated approach with some of our community partners. Like for instance, last week at the City of North Las Vegas, Councilman Black and Commissioner Kirkpatrick, they hosted a back-to-school splash party. They gave out backpacks. Of course, we did hot dogs and snow cones, but it was fantastic. This Saturday, where I'm over in the City of North Las Vegas at our neighborhood recreation center, that's right off the Quarter of Hope. We're able to give away 2,500 backpacks, and they're filled with school supplies. And I have a whole host of partners from the community that are donating the supplies, haircuts, shoes, right? What I'd like to see is if there, an attachment to one of our websites there said, hey, need to get ready for school? Check out our community partners. And I realize that some of these will have to be, you'll have to have some sort of a policy on editing, on vetting, you know, the partners that you're going to want to have on there, you know. But I think that might be great because again, there's so much need right now, and like something like a haircut. If you have 2 or 3 kids, it's like $15 to $20 for a haircut. That's groceries for some families for an entire week. And you know, and I think we have them out there. At the same time, you know, although I would like to be overrun with families, right? That way, next year maybe I can get a bigger location and give out 5,000 backpacks. That's a lot. But anyhow, I would, of course, with the blessing of the rest of the board and, of course, the superintendent, if we could do something like that, it might be helpful for some people who are still, they might be new to the area. They might have just, you know, come in from another place, right? They might be looking for those sort of resources. So if there's anything that we can do with that, I know I'd really appreciate that. And one last thing, sometimes, you know, it's images that we take in that define moments. And I couldn't help but noticing, and it's going to sound like I'm, you know, just kissing up here, right? I'm a big fan, of course, of our superintendent. But there's a great image of her, I guess, at one of our community events here recently, when she's, you know, handing something there to a child. And that wasn't staged. You can see you could see the genuine nature, you know, of our superintendent, first and foremost, as an educator. And I just want to say that, you know, whether it's her or the deputy superintendents, you know, you can see they are genuine. They are genuinely engaged. And it's an entirely different vibe. And I just wanted to congratulate not just our superintendent and her team, but also this board, who's given them that's given them the support to make sure that, you know, we move the district in a new direction, something different than we've had before. And I can just feel I've been in the district almost my entire life, and I can feel that this year is a little bit different than years past. There's a lot of fear in the community, but there's also kernels of hope, and that's what I can see that, and so I'm hoping that sets a great tone for the school year. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to keep it really, really brief.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate the way that we're being intentional about bringing in community to be able to be partners, right? And so their thoughts of their, and I've heard you say this, Superintendent Ebert, everybody's responsible for the results. And so the work that we're doing now to get people invested in this school district is important, because as we start looking at the academic results that are going to come in a couple of weeks, I want everybody to feel equally accountable to those as they do about the handing out backpacks, and all those things are great, and they feel great, and we want those things to continue to happen. And when we're talking about tutoring needs to happen, when we're talking about reading proficiency, when we're talking about math proficiency, we want everybody to feel equally connected to that result and figuring out ways to lean in there, because at the end of the day, the backpacks are great and all of these things are fantastic, and it's important that all of our students are meeting their academic targets, because that's what's going to really drive us to be the destination district. So thank you for that work and being intentional about bringing people in so that they are equally accountable to the results that we have.
That's awesome. So I'm going to say, I'm talking to our legal counsel. This is not normal. So we have made a lot of progress as a team, not just the school board trustees, not just picking the superintendent that meets our shared vision, but the staff that you selected superintendent. So definitely feel the momentum. Next week, we have an opportunity to meet the community and the students where they're at. And so great work, each and every one of you. And so with that, we don't have any other comments. We've expressed our gratitude, and I hope that you feel it through our actions. Oh, Superintendent, did you want to say something?
Just really quickly, I wanted to re-emphasize that this Saturday is our last back-to-school fair with Cox. It is at the Meadows Mall. It is the longest time frame that we've had yet. So, please have people know that we're going to be there. They can register if for some reason they weren't able to get to a school building, Monday through Friday because of work and all those things. We will have computers there, people there that they can go ahead and register and be ready for school on Monday. Thank you.
And we know that 1,000 students that we get additionally would be millions of dollars for the school district for us to be able to provide the quality education. So thank you for that. With that, we're going to go ahead and move to public comment 3.01. I don't see anybody that was signed up previously, and Ken does not want to come up, but is there anybody that wants to provide public comment? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to move to 4.0, upcoming meeting announcement. Our next meeting is Thursday, August 14th at 5 p.m. here in this boardroom. With that, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Trustee Cavazos.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, please.
I have a first. Do I have a second? Trustee Biasotti?
I would like to second that motion, and God bless my kiddos. Good luck.
Okay, and Trustee Zamora, please cast your votes. Trustee Zamora?
Aye.
Okay. That motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.